we got going on here, guys? We got some fishermen in here? Fishermen's here? Oh, I don't even know what to do with myself. I don't even know what to... I better start this thing up. All right. Also, fishermen, you'll find out... Well, I'm doing a thing in like I think it's next weekend because my wife's out of town, where I'm going to show guys like kind of the stuff that I've picked up on streaming. I finally figured out how to like crop things and do some other stuff inside of OBS that like you just don't even know until you see somebody do it, and then you're like, oh, that's super easy. So anyways, I got a lot of this stuff a lot better for kind of the way that I want the stream to look. So but anyways, how's it going, guys? Fun Salot, Coffee Over Land, everybody that's kind of hanging out. We are hanging out. I've got some stuff to go over. We don't work too hard on Friday afternoons, but that being said, we still have some stuff that we need to do for Unit 6 of the course. So I've got the Unit 6 stuff already here. So we'll go over it. We'll look at like what I'm going to be talking about. And then I'll show you guys in that what we're going to do for the labs. The labs and the worksheet I still have to finish. So this is the security engineering presentation for tomorrow, but we're just kind of looking at it now. I know some guys were telling me they like to pop in and try to find like what, bits and pieces about what we're talking on. So I guess this is the spoilers for tomorrow, but I mean, it is what it is, right? Because it's not going to be the exact same thing that I have, but all right, so we're doing security engineering unit 6. For people that haven't been around, there is a book that the guys have been putting together here, and this is the security engineering guide. Actually, they have one for the Linux admin course as well. So these are both free books that you guys can use if you wanted. I'll link them to you guys down here. Coffee Over Land, you tried to get into Toastmasters, but they never responded. That is not common for Toastmasters for sure. I would maybe look around and see if there's another one near you maybe that you can use. But let me show you guys something about the group. Of the security engineering group. For week 3, I think they actually have the weeks right here. Week 3. Week 6, we're going to be doing monitoring and parsing of logs. So all of these things that you kind of need to know how to do, all the way from just like a sysadmin, like looking at a log on a system, to from a security engineering standpoint, how do we aggregate that up to be enterprise ready, right? So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then, all the other pieces of it as well. So that's kind of what we're going to be looking at on for today and then in the course tomorrow. On the sysadmin side of things, which is the course that we've already run and we're just going to be rerunning now, we're going to be focusing on firewalls this week. So we're going to be hitting it at a much more just system level, right? Because that's how sysadmin works. Kuya said, love the content, been following up here and there, brush up on my links. Nice. Yeah, that's what we do around here. We do a lot of Linux, and I try to get you guys ready for doing this stuff professionally. Especially like the main goal is for people that are hobbyists that are already doing this stuff to find out that there's a path to doing this stuff professionally if you guys want to. Yeah, Fisherman, I'm surprised they didn't get back to him because, I mean, Toastmasters are all about like their members. They're normally pretty good about that stuff. Hey, Monkey Man, how's it going? So anyways, we're just kind of gonna blow through this a little bit. I'm not gonna go deep into the presentation. I'll probably just kind of talk over some of the things I want to practice, talking about and that kind of stuff. But we're not doing this like, hey, this is the next hour of the presentation. We're just kind of walking through it. So, there we go. Boom. All right. So anyways, announcements and also coffee. We've talked about it a little bit. I was a Toastmaster, so I'm pretty sure. Because I was Toastmaster for 2 years in high school, although long ago, I'm pretty sure I'm qualified to run one. I'd have to check their exact things. They may have like you have to have done it so recently, but I know all their parliamentary procedures. I know all that stuff. It's all pretty easy. If there were enough people that wanted to do it, we could definitely run one in the Discord. It wouldn't be hard. I'd have to go because I wouldn't want to use, obviously I'm not going to use somebody's name without their permission, so I would want to be an official thing for them. But that would be that would be a possibility if we couldn't find anything else for sure. So, yeah, and I tell you guys, like you guys might think this is like an overstatement or I'm kidding or something like that, but I am very much an introvert, and if I had not done Toastmasters in high school, there's no way I'd have been a college professor. There's no way I would have ever gotten up and spoken in front of people ever in all this world. I'm an introvert. I prefer sitting by myself. I prefer except having my wife sitting by me next to me, I could sit by myself all day in complete silence and it doesn't bug me one bit. And some of you guys might think that's fanatical. It's true. It's a good thing to know about yourself. But I can talk in front of crowds, and I have talked to groups of 400 plus at at graduations and stuff. I've talked to huge crowds of people, and it doesn't bug me one bit because I was a Toastmaster. So it can't be overstated how good that group is to get involved with if you want to get into public speaking. So anyways, there's that. Kaya said, I'm training for Red Hat and enjoy this. Was Linux as a hobby. Was software engineer, did some cybersecurity. Nice. Yeah, we have a lot of people that have their RHCSA or have worked towards that, Kaya, down in the, down our Discord for sure. So there's a lot of people that are, actually, I think 2 people are working on their RHCSA right now as well. So they were trading some information down in certs. I will tell you guys most of the stuff, because it always comes up, hey, are your courses enough to go get this cert? None of my courses are designed to get you guys passing any certs. They are designed to show you guys how Linux works in the enterprise, and they will help you bridge that gap from just being somebody that does Linux or has certs into doing it for an enterprise. That's what I think it would help with. But for people that are like, hey, I'm doing this specific LFCS or I'm doing whatever those certs are, I would tell you we'll get you some of the way there, but we're not focused on the specifics of the cert. So definitely find other people that are interested in doing that same cert and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so here's our announcements. We'll always have our announcements at the beginning of the class or whatever. Dead, you said RHCSA paid off in your case. The company that hired me wants me to work on migration from Alma to RHEL. Nice. So they're going to paid, huh, Deaden? They're going full on paid version. I see. Okay. Yeah. And that's another thing. It's like however people get to. I tell people as long as you're still working on stuff, that's good, and then dial it in when you're ready to go take a cert or something like that. Coffee. I think anybody on Discord can use /poll, and then you could actually put together a poll if you needed to. Yeah. I could here. Let me go look real quick. By the way, guys, I wanted to show you this before I start into that stuff, because guys, you got to remember on Fridays we don't work too hard around here. But here's the things that are going on this week and in the next future upcoming weeks. In about 2.5 hours here, there's a security engineering study group. So that's going to be going over those first 5 weeks of this course that I'm working on now, the security engineering course. That's a 10-week course. It's currently a 10-week course. We might add. I might add 2 weeks to the end of it that are just pulling it together weeks, and then they'll never be on the official. It'll still officially be a 10-week course, but I think those will just be I guess they'll be bonus at the end. It'll still be a 10-week course, but the last 2 weeks for people that stick around this first time will just be pulling it all together and talking about all the things in a full stitched together concept and all that stuff. So, Dead, using Ansible Tower. Yep. Big fan of Tower. Big fan of that tool in general. So security engineering tonight in a few hours. Bash study group tomorrow around noon. Tomorrow's my last free Saturday because I'm starting up my college classes again. So when I teach college, I always do Saturday study sessions for my college students. So I won't be able to be at a lot of these, but that's a pretty big group, 42 people. It's getting pretty big. Then tomorrow in the afternoon, we'll have the Linux sysadmin course and the Linux security engineering course. Those are our kind of set times for those. These are the non-recorded versions, so people come to those. You can ask questions. We mess around a little bit. We have a little more leeway than we do when we're recording it, and I have to be real structured and that kind of stuff. And then we have the writer's room on Sunday. That's for the people that want to help get involved with writing the book. The book, all the material I've already put together. You guys are just formatting it and putting it into those cool web-based books that you guys can use. And I think that's valuable. I think that's something that you guys can put on a resume and say, hey, I helped work on this. And it's just another thing to, I always tell you guys, get positive differentiators on your resume. Find more things that look good than things that are bad. You got to counteract all those felonies you got on your resume, right? So, Random Walk said, am I able to create an SRE course at some point? I understand site reliability engineering. I've never been a site reliability engineer, not directly by that title. I've been an engineer for a long time, and I've done a lot with engineering and what people would consider reliability. but I wouldn't give it the justice of somebody that's been in that role heavily, but I could definitely, point people to the right places to go study, I think. And we have a lot of people that are involved directly with SRE that would probably do that better. I need more of those guys to step up and start streaming and stuff so that we have more people. But it's definitely something. Random Walks, I can tell you the next versions of the courses that are coming out. So we've got the Linux sysadmin and security engineering, but our security engineering could be called blue teaming because it's all blue. We're going to make a red team version of it so I can show you guys what that kind of stuff looks like from the enterprise standpoint. What I used to do when I ran the red team for AAA, like big insurance company. And then the other one that I'm going to do, which I already have all the materials for it, I just have to slap it together, is we'll do either a 10 or a 16-week, probably 16-week will do it justice, automation course. And the reason we want to do automation is if you've already got all the admin stuff down, the automation stuff will be just making that better. And I wish, if I had more time in my career or I had done more with SRE, I would probably focus on it more. But I do have some good, SRE guys down in the course. And I think everything we do has some site reliability aspects to it. But I've just never been in 100% that role. So I wouldn't feel great. All right. Then we go, so next weekend, my wife's out of town. She's going up to, where is she going? She's hitting the last of her 50 states. We're going up to Montana later this year, her and I. I think this one's Kentucky. Anyway, she's going with one of her girlfriends, and they're going out there for a few days. So not this Sunday. So this Sunday's the writer's room. But next Sunday, I'm going to have a little group on getting into streaming. So if anybody's like, hey, I want to get into streaming, but I don't know how to do any of that stuff, I'll show you guys like an OBS setup and how to do a green screen and then how to crop your stuff. I'll show like all the basic stuff that I think, I'm no great streamer or anything, but I know how to set it up at least. It's not great, but I can do the basics. I can make a little thing go across the bottom of the screen, right? Like down here. You can make a little thing that goes like that across the bottom. Just dumb stuff like that, right? That same weekend, because that's when my college starts on May 5th, again, both my teaching and my going to college, I'm going to start doing my Sunday night sessions. And these will probably be both down in the Discord and also up in, I'll probably be streaming these as well, where I'm just kind of sitting around and doing some research and stuff. And I'll show you guys what that looks like. We'll look at scholar.google.com, and we'll also look at like Zotero, which is a tool that I like in my workflows for that kind of stuff as well. And then we have, in August we have all the ProLug stuff coming up. These are our annual conferences that are virtual conferences, and they're free. And you guys are welcome to go hang out and look at those if you want. It only says, 30-something people right now in each, but I'll tell you, these get like over 100 people because we just sit there all day and we just have different speakers come. And I'll publish the speaker list here soon. I've got most of them slotted out, but not all of them yet, so... All right, there's that. Anyways, Paul, how's it going, man? Hopefully this is useful to you. It's been a while. Paul, so Paul's been around. I've known Paul since probably like 2014, here local in Phoenix. And normally when my wife's out of town, I run like retro game night here. I have a bunch of Raspberry Pis and like retro modded out Xboxes, and we just get a bunch of... If we're being honest, it's all guys, but we get all the guys over and we do just retro game nights all downstairs. I have like 4 different rooms of downstairs that I just have set up for like TVs and games and stuff, and it's pretty fun. We when for the younger guys, we'll put on Mike Tyson's Punch-Out and let Mike Tyson beat the crap out of them. I always think that one's funny because they get to see how hard games. That game is super easy until you get to Mike Tyson, and then you get the brakes beat off you. So that's kind of funny. And then, one of my favorite ones to show everybody, too, is from Super Nintendo F-Zero, the original F-Zero. That was a fun little game. And then it's F-Z-E-R-O. Yeah, it's more like that. That's how the game looks. But anyways, so there's that. All right, so that's the announcements and stuff. So anyways, last week, if we're talking, this is a security course. I'm not really going over it right now. I'm just giving you guys kind of my high level and looking for errors and stuff. But last week, we built out repos and we did enterprise patching. Good. We had a lab on repos and patching, and then there were some worksheets and notes and that kind of stuff that we did. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. This week, hold on. I'm missing something. What happened here? Hold on. Pull this up. What happened here? Okay. I changed the format. I'm like, where the hell did I change the format? Okay. Let's go back in here. So last week we did those things, and then I'll pop down here. It's good. See, this is why I got to practice this. Then I say, okay, these were the questions that we asked last week, and these were the questions that we answered for ourselves. Why is control so important for security engineering? Why is control important for any type of platform or site reliability or any of those types of engineering? Why do we care about like controlling a thing? Why do we have to be like hard asses about who has root in a system? Well, the answer is because if anybody can change anything, no one person is responsible for the state of the system. And if I'm going to be the one with my name on it, I need to be the only one who can change things unless we go through like a change review process and a change board and those kind of things, right? So we talked about that. We talked about fit for use, which is just checking boxes on the thing. And fit for warranty is, does the system work as often as it needs to? And would you bet your weekend on this system staying up and not falling over, right? We talked about why we create repos locally. Maybe we're in an air-gapped environment and we don't have a solution for getting software in, or maybe we're in a completely like skiff, completely just off the network, and we have to bring a software of data, maybe even on a CD from our security team, and we'll put that on one machine and let all the machines reach to them and pull the data and pull the software that they need or whatever. So we may need to create a repo locally to satisfy some type of balance between updating software and having a completely air-gapped solution that can't pull anything from remote, right? And then how do we create a repo locally? Well, we go in and we can do it two ways. We can either just mount the ISO and have the repo md.xml in there. And most ISOs that you get, like the full CD, they have all that. So then that CD can just be mounted and you point to it and it'll just run all the data. So we actually do that. And then the other one we do is we make an NFS share. NFS share. Don't listen to me. You could do it over NFS for that first one. But the second one, we actually create an HTTPD server. So we start a web server up. And after we get that web server running, then we point to that. And we have all the pathing correct in the directives of the Apache server. And then we can connect and pull all our data. And that was our labs last week. That's what we actually did in the labs for the last week, which I'm not going to pull up again because, again, this is all review stuff for the guys. How do we share a repo over the network? That's it right there. And then how do we configure our repos on our local machines? We go to etsy yum.repos.d, and then we configure whatever repos and whatever paths we need, right? Then, so that was the first part. Like the whole first part of last week was that repo stuff. And the second part was down here with enterprise patching. And the idea is, on your machine or you got a phone or whatever, and it just says one day I need to update, and you click OK, and then you make sure that it's got power for the next 20 minutes, and it's fine. You just don't shut it off during the update, and everything's good, and that's cool. That's like a one-off patching. That's just you patching your stuff. But how does enterprise patching differ from that? Like, I'm not just pushing patch on my laptop here at home. I'm trying to patch 1,000 systems. What are the problems? What are the things that differ there? And what is lifecycle in engineering, and how does it relate to patching? Well, typically, we will lock in a version of a repository, and then we will cause that to become a lifecycle that moves through to different groups of servers that can patch. And then when we're done with it, we'll let it age off out of our server or whatever, right? So a life cycle is how long something exists and how long it's useful for. We have data life cycles. We have server life cycles. There's all kinds of things. Hardware life cycles tend to be about 5 to 6 years, and then we refresh our hardware and all that kind of stuff, right? I say 5 to 6 years. Most of us are refreshing hardware every 3 years in the enterprise, but it really depends on what your warranties are and what the support is and that kind of stuff. But all right, anyway, so that's last week. This week, no. Oh, I still got to do this. So I got to write. I still have to write my topics. So don't worry about my topics. My topics this week will be on. Let's go with. Hold on, let me look real quick. We're going to change this. We're going to go with. This week will be storing logs. This one will be parsing log. So that'll be the overarching idea of whatever question I'm going to ask. Okay. And then we'll have logs and parsing. All right, that all looks good as far as that. I'm going to update these as we go in the actual lab. We'll get to the lab here in a little bit. We're not doing the course right now, guys. I'm just reviewing this while we kind of hang out. Fridays are our more chill afternoons, right? Because then I do date night with the wife later. So this is kind of my in between from kind of like the workday being like winding down and then us getting into the end of the week, you know. All right, anyway, so here's our overview. So this is what I'm going to talk about this week. What is a log? What does it mean to have a log in your system, right? And a log is some immutable record of an action that occurred or tried to occur. Doesn't matter if, like, it doesn't matter if the action. So the record of an action that occurred. It's an action. But where I should probably reword this, it doesn't matter if the action was successful or not. We still need to log it, right? So that's what an overview of a log is for us. How do we use logs? Well, we use logs to see what's happened before in our system, to predict things that are going to happen in our system. So we'll talk about that. Then what are some common log elements? Like, what is the structure of a log? Let me fix that. Some common log elements. Yeah, because I think that's a good way to put it right there. Make these one smaller again. All right, so what is the structure of a log? We'll ask that, right? And that's important because if you're going to say that something is an immutable event and an immutable record, that record should have some elements to it and some structure so that it's easier to parse and read and take apart and all that kind of stuff. Like there's some things we could brainstorm right now. Like, we probably would agree that one of the most important things that could possibly be said about any event that happened is the time that it happened. Right? And, this brings up a really interesting concept. Do you know, like, have any of you guys ever worked across time zones? And I know not everybody here has been in, like, IT, but have you ever worked across time zones and you're like, oh, what time are you guys in? Like, now, and, like, especially when you're in Phoenix, because Phoenix, we don't change time zones with everybody else. Like, I'm on Pacific time right now, so I'm 3 hours off of East Coast, but I spend half the year only 2 hours off of East Coast. So people are constantly like, what's your time right now? Like, what's your time zone, this and this? And I'm like, well, it's Mountain Standard, but that doesn't really tell you guys anything. I'm either directly with, and then sometimes I'm directly with Colorado. Sometimes I'm an hour ahead of them. Like, it's or an hour behind them. It's stupid, right? It's like this silly thing. Well, where I'm going with that is, if your servers are all on ridiculous time, like some are on Mountain Standard and some are on Phoenix time, so they don't change. Some are up on Chicago time and some are New York, and you're trying to, like, parse those log events that come through, you might have some real problems there, right? You might have some real annoyances. So we would agree that timestamps are important. And then I think we would also then agree that, like, if we have timestamps and they were spread all over the place, we need to also have them. Hold on, sorry, I'm getting messages from somebody. Somebody important enough for me to look at during a stream, in fact. All right. So we would agree then. So, like, for me, a lot of times when I'm working across time zones, and I work on a project right now with NOAA where we've got stuff in Manassas, Virginia, and then Phoenix, Arizona. So they're either 2 or 3 hours different between these two big clusters. So the easiest way that most of us deal with that, can anybody guess what the easiest way is to deal with that? If we are in all these different areas and we think that the timestamps are going to be a problem because the servers are set on different time zones, can anybody think of what most of us probably do in the data center? Change your PC time. Sure. But what would we normally do across, like, our data center? What standard might we take so that the servers are all on the same exact time? Yeah, use UTC. Yeah, use UTC. Some people will do Zulu time, but I'm a bigger fan of UTC because it's pretty well known in the computer and server space. So yeah, we'll set all of them to UTC. So UTC here and UTC in New York, my servers would have the same exact logs because it's a real hassle I don't care how smart somebody thinks they are. When you're looking at like 3 or 4 different log streams and they're from different time zones, and you're like, okay, this one's 2 hours different, this one's 3 hours different, and then you're looking at times. I mean, unless you have some kind of real, like, Rain Man thing going on, if you guys are familiar with the old movie Rain Man, you're just not. It's just not going to work for you. Right? Your brain's not going to be able to handle it all. Yeah, it's too much. It's too much work. So send them all to UTC and let them all be on the same time, no matter where they are around the globe, and that's better for most of us, especially when we're trying to correlate attacks and events and things that occurred. Maybe we got a centralized storage and they're all touching it, but now all these different timestamps are going all this different place. Yeah, if you just put it all on UTC, it's better. All right. So we know that there's going to have this common structure, and that's cool, and we know they're immutable, so they don't change. Now, that being said, people like to use one of the architectures I'm going to show is like Kafka buses and event bridge type buses. And I'm going to tell you that people love to take an action that comes in and immediately modify and do things and trigger things off it. That's wonderful. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't change the original message. But before you the message that comes in, like this IP address came in and was allowed to go to this server from this and this, like the elements of like a AWS, what do they call it, VPC flow log or something. There's 9 elements. Don't change any of them. Let that flow through and be stored forever. But you can modify and say, okay, and then that triggered this event, and that's its own event. But don't go modifying the immutable record that comes in. Because I'm calling it immutable, but that doesn't mean that somebody with permissions couldn't change it. I'm just telling you shouldn't change it, if that makes sense. Because it's an event. You want to be able to replay. In fact, one of the reasons that we use event buses, which we're going to talk about, is because we can replay events. We can replay what happened over a certain amount of time. But not if we're changing stuff, we can't. So you got to have it unmutable. I know Rain Man because of the movies that refer to Rain Man. Yeah, well, yeah. yeah. There's a lot of joke. There's probably more cultural references of Rain Man than there actually is time in that movie, for sure. Monkey Man. I wouldn't be surprised about that one bit. And then, so now here's the thing. Where do we store logs, right? Centralized location. Do we rotate them for speed and compression? Do we get them off the servers in real time? And I really should have just made one slide of this. Get them off the servers in real time. That could be the overarching theme of everything I tell you in general in systems engineering. Like, if you're not going to take your logs off your server in real time, I'm going to tell you should just fucking say you don't care about security or care about getting your servers back up. And the reason I say that is because your logs being stored off of the server in real time solve all kinds of security problems, all kinds of protecting your tracks type problems if somebody does compromise you. They solve all kinds of figuring things out problems, like if something was actually compromised and went down, or it went down from like some other hardware error, because things are going off in real time so we can look at them before the server even gets fixed. Maybe a server's down and as it went down, it fried one of its chips or something happened, and you're like, well, we can't rule out that it was malicious. Well, let's go ahead and bring it back up on the network before we go figuring that out. No, hell no. You need to figure that out now. While the system is down, right? You need to be able to no. You should not have to wait until a server comes back up to find out what happened to it. That's for lack of a better term, let's call that the most Bush League shit I've ever heard. Meaning that's not a professional thing. That's not a professional way to do things. In the home lab, sure. Who cares? It's a home lab. We don't care about the home lab the same. But we absolutely care in the professional world, right? So that's why we're going to talk about that with the logs. So get the logs off the server in real time. If you can do that, that's a big part of this battle. You're going to meet most compliance standards. You're going to meet all kinds of stuff if you can get off your servers in real time. And then now, so we know what a log is. We know how we use them. We've learned their common elements and where we store them and get them off the server. And then now, how do we look at them? We either parse them locally, if there are local versions of the logs. We can parse them with command line tools. We can also parse them where they're aggregated with command line tools, sure. And then we can also query with specific tools. There's specific tools that we can use as well. So this is kind of my overview for the hour-long thing tomorrow. That's what I'm going to talk about. That's kind of the structure I have in my head of what we're doing for tomorrow in the logging. And so it's the theme is logging and parsing, right? It's right here. the theme. Yeah, the theme for this week is, because we're in week 6. So yeah, sorry. Monitoring and parsing logs. Yeah. So monitoring. Oh yeah. Well, monitoring systems as well. I need to. I need to think about this because I need to think about how deep we have. I have many tens of hours worth of monitoring stuff that we could talk about as well. I went kind of more on the log side, so I might have to add a little bit of monitoring stuff here as well. So I might be adding a little bit to this presentation, but that's fine. That's not going to change some of the stuff that we're going to do for this. This will all still stay the same. All right, so let's get into it a little bit. Hayes is here. How's it going? What'd you say there? Oh yeah, you didn't miss 2 hours and 13 minutes for you. Yeah, fair enough. So here's kind of what I think of. This kind of my high level. You can use logs to review troubleshooting of what was happening in a system, like what happened 3 hours before the server went down, what happened 5 minutes before, what happened all the way to the last second until that server stopped sending stuff off, right? But we should know with the logs a lot of clues about what happened. Maybe we start to see a high amount of I/O errors on the disk that have never been there before, and then the server powers down hard, and the last thing we see is that like 50% of disk I/O was actually just resends because stuff wasn't writing to disk. I've seen that really happen, right? That's a real behavior you might find. Security auditing, logs can track user activity, login attempts, system changes, and help to identify potential security breaches. So you can review logs for those type of things, right? And then also logs can do a thing called checkpointing. So let's say you have an application, and every time that application does something, or maybe starts to go and pull some API requests so it can start to work through something, but before it sends it out and writes it out to a database, maybe you're checkpointing as you go, and you're saying how long like system calls are taking, or you're using some library and how long is it taking to do something, and what was our resource utilization, because maybe we know as a checkpoint in our code, if we're getting over like 80% of some certain utilization on the box, we tend to have problems with whatever finishing. I don't know, whatever. But the point is, your applications can be written to checkpoint logs. And then also for debugging, you can have logs that are sending a lot of information, but typically debug logs are not going to be shown unless you're set in some kind of debug mode. Typically, this is like there's already a problem. But anyways, the points of checkpointing is you're checkpointing throughout a process just to see if you got there. Some of you guys, if you remember like your basic computer science stuff, you would write a loop, and then they'd be like, all right, now let's write a loop inside that loop. So your first loop would count like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And your second loop would count ABC, ABC, right? And it is counting because they're being used as numbers at that point, even though they're letters, they're technically numbers because we're enumerating over them, right? It doesn't matter. The point is, then you introduce something and something doesn't work anymore. So then what checkpointing would be in that instance would be if you've ever used print statements. I know some of you, for sure, when you did some computer science or played around with it in college, you definitely wrote print statements. Or when you're having problems seeing how the data is flowing through a system, you'll write checkpoints in your code. That's what this is. Checkpoints can be logged out, and then we can do whatever we want with them, right? So, that being said here, this is the things that I think logs are useful for. This is not an exhaustive list. There could probably be more, but these are the kind of things that we run into as a Linux and platform type engineer, right? All right. So, log elements. I said that logs are structured, and the more structured they are, the easier they are to read by other systems. That makes sense. Like, if there's an agreed upon thing, like in this stream, we've agreed at some point that I'm going to speak English. I'm going to speak around 120 to 180 words a minute, let's say, and I'm going to speak around, let's say, 60 to 80 decibels, and I'm going to speak around this whatever voice, whatever the basic tone of my voice is. I'm not going to alter the pitch up and down and have my voice crack and stuff on stream. So there's kind of been this agreement, and it's the same thing with logs. And anytime we talk about a protocol, by the way, and I come from network engineering, so for me, a protocol is anything that governs the rules, or any rules that govern how communication occurs, right? Well, there's two RFCs. You're never going to get away from, if you're going to be an engineer of any type, you are going to deal with RFCs, guys, just so you know. And there's two RFCs that kind of deal with log elements and log formatting. One is the older one, RFC 3164, which is your BSD, right? BSD, your Berkeley Standard Distro or whatever, BSD syslog. And then that one is very simple. We're going to look at that. It's very simple. And then RFC 5424, which is the IETF syslog, which is the more common one in systems. Now, I said earlier that we would always have a timestamp. That's true. We're always going to have timestamp. But then as we get further and further along, we're going to have the host that it happened on. Because, again, once these all get shuffled together, you need to know who the host was. And then maybe, for me, I like this one. Next one tends to be the protocol that's causing it, or the process, if you know the process that's running it. And you can just get more and more granular. The next one is, what is the common severity? And these severity types allow you to then route into different logs for then, what you need to do. So if we go to, like, let's say a Linux box here real quick, right? For this, as an example here, I just SSH over to, like, Rocky 19. I think Rocky 19 should be up. So Rocky 19 is just one of our servers, right? And I do a more on etc/syslog.conf. In here, you'll see some basic directive stuff up here. Nothing up here really matters to this, like to this part of the conversation. But down here, we see that, okay, if you are kernel, this is commented out. So this line's commented out, doesn't matter. This line is not commented out. So .info, mail, .none, authpriv, and cron. So anything .info, anything mail, authpriv, and cron.none go to varlog messages. Anything that's going to varlog secure is configured off of authpriv, and then anything from authpriv. So anybody doing anything with authorization and logging in. So let's say you were just tired of knowing varlog messages and varlog secure. You're like, I don't even want to do both of those. That's two things to know. That's too many things. So you're pissed, right? And you're managing 1,000 servers. You could go across all your servers and go into your rsyslog.conf, and you could just take this and put it at the end right there, and you would never have anything that mattered right to rsyslog again, or varlog secure ever again. Like, I mean, oops, I'm gonna hit cancel over here. Yeah, I mean, sure, if that's what you want to do, right? But that kind of seems silly to us. But if you've ever wondered, how does your system know where to send stuff? It's doing it right here. This is where all that parsing's happening. Cron, anything cron is going to varlog cron. Anything emergency, I don't even know what that is. But the point is, you can modify these things and change these things wherever you want. Okay. And if we're going to send anything off, we can send it off down here at the end where we say anybody sends out. Now, I have labs that show you guys how to do that stuff if you want to get into, like, the nitty-gritty of that stuff. We are going to do that as part of the labs for this week, but I'm saying in general, there are places, you can go modify these all you want and just watch what happens to your logs in your system. You do have to restart rsyslog every time you do that, though, right? Because otherwise it's not going to reread it. Then we're typically using the 5424 RFC for the IETF syslog. So logs must be timestamped. It's common that they'll be ISO 8601 timestamped, but then that format may change. We're going to look at that format based on these two. You could write your own log format. We're going to look at a log parser here in a little bit. Again, it's funny, I'm actually kind of doing the whole thing, but we're not really doing the course yet. We'll do the course tomorrow as a group, and then I'll record it on Sunday typically. So Sunday mornings are typically when I record things. And then logs must be categorized by severity, because then we can do proper routing. Common in Linux are debug, info, notice, warn, error, crit, alert, and emerge, which is short for emergency, right? Hayes, you spent 8 cents on ChatGPT today. Nice. That's going to be like the new way that people learn stuff nowadays. So here's a log element of RFC 3164 BSD syslog. It's the older, more basic format, and You've got your priority up here. It's numerical code. Then you got a timestamp. And that timestamp looks like this. It's the month, the day, and then the hours, minutes, and seconds. And then it doesn't have the year or the time zone information. So that's important to note. And you say, why is that important to note, Scott? Well, because this isn't going to tell me that it's in UTC or not. I have to know that my servers are in UTC for this to be valuable. Otherwise, 1430 over here might not be 1430 over here, might not be 1430 over there. That's a nightmare. Now, when you say, well, Scott, when you always have those always perfectly in NTP or Crony, why would most companies ever have done that? I mean, yeah, absolutely you should, but unless you're running a cluster where like the things have to be within a few seconds of each other, most people never go that far down into, oh, let's make sure all of our servers are exactly NTP compliant and at exactly the same second with each other. Most people never do that. I mean, some people might, but it's one of those things where I'm just telling you, like, you got to know the limitations of the timestamp. There's a host name. That's super nice because then if we shuffle it all together, we know which ones it came from. That's super useful. You know, because if you aggregate these all up with our syslog, they're just going to be in a line. And they're just going to be by date. And this same, it's actually funny, this is not granular enough for a lot of Linux systems nowadays. A lot of times we include 4 digits of precision on the seconds, underneath the seconds, right? Down to, I guess that's even less than milliseconds, right? But there's 4 digits of precision on the clock underneath it. So we would have that as well. And you say, well, can you show me that? Yeah, right here. Where's that? Right? Well, these ones are only that precision, so that's fine too, I guess. But a lot of times when we do cluster stuff, or let me see, does dmessage do it? Those are all parts of a second, but I guess they're just relative to the start of the system. So, all right, well, just ignore me. Who cares? And then the message, if there's any log message that they wanted to show. So that's what this might look like. And that, by the way, is enough for us to search. Like if we needed to search for all of user 1 coming in on this system, I think most of us could probably slap together some you know, maybe a cat and a grep and some other stuff to figure that out. I think we could parse these messages down from a 1,000,000-line file probably pretty easily, right? Which we get into parsing here in a little bit, but yeah, we could do that. Okay. So I think that's a good enough format for it. But this is the more modern format. This is the more modern format, the 5424 IETF syslog. This is the one that most of us see in our basic system. It looks like this down here. So this, and also this is the one that you're going to see pretty often coming out of servers. You're going to see this on a lot of stuff. So it's got the priority over here, same as the RFC 3164. Then it's got a timestamp in the ISO 8601 long format, right? That's a pretty good long format, and that's all the way down to the millisecond precision, because you could do 000 through 999, so that's up to 1,000th of a second, right? So it's millisecond. The name of the system's still there, the process or the app name, and then the process ID in this case, which is awesome because then we can go look through, you know, if we've got a full dump of the server, we can go look at what's going on in the proc tables and what's being accessed and libraries and stack traces and all that stuff, right? We've got all that from the process ID, which is really good. And then just whatever the output is over here is some kind of message and structured data, right? Same type of message as the other one, but it's just got maybe a little more information, and you've got a very common timestamp right here from ISO 8601. That's what most of you guys are used to looking at if you do API calls. This is what our API calls are almost always in, right? Cocus, I had no idea it was Friday, way behind in the bash stuff. Yeah, I was actually saying earlier, you got about 2 hours. So anybody that's going to do the course, it's about 2 hours to the course. Not course, it's like the bash. Oh no, the bash thing's tomorrow. The course today, hold on. It's not the course, it's the study group is today. Hold on. That's in about 2 hours from now for me. So any of you guys that are going to go do the security engineering group, the bash group is tomorrow at high noon. That should say high noon. I know it's different for different people, but for us, it's high noon. All right. So that's the 5424 IETF syslog. That'll be, again, this is what we're talking about tomorrow. Yeah. Oh, cool, because I've been super busy all this week too, man. I get it. It's weird because I'm in between college right now, both teaching and going to college. So, like, this is actually my lull week. I don't have as much this week. And then next week, I'm going to be starting up college, like teaching. But it's funny, I'm teaching classes that I've literally taught over 20 times each. Like, both these classes are just walk in the park for me. Not that I don't still have to give them the full attention. It's just that I don't have to prep for them the same. It's not 6 hours or 10 hours of prep anymore. It's like 1 or 2 hours of just making sure all my notes are good, making sure my presentations are like I want them to be. And then I'm going to school again, so I'm sure it'll be like, 2 or 3 discussion posts a week. This is, guys, you don't get out of it all the way up to PhD level. You're still doing that. Probably reading and posting some stuff, probably doing some research stuff. Typical stuff that you have to do in those courses. So, all right. Anyway, so then there's also, I included this one even though we're not going to dig into it in the course. But there's also, after those other two, there's a very modern one that people are using, which is your System D journal, and it stores log messages in a structured way, but in a binary format. So you can't cat these out. It doesn't work. It just cats out and just dumps this hot load on your screen that you can't even read. It's just a big old, like took crap on your screen. So you have to read it with journal CTL, right? And then you have a bunch of flags for journal CTL and the exact process you want to look at, which is nice. But then here's what these look like. And we're not going to dig in too much to them, but the point is it'll have the machine ID on it, the host name, the process. Always important to have that process ID if you need to dump it later. If it was started by like a System D unit, what that unit was. So that's good. Like, it's SSH or SSHD, depending on the version of RHEL that you're using, and then what the actual message is. So journal CTL, very much like a modern way of doing it. But I've never seen us ship journal logs from System D off of a system. These are kind of like what's going on inside the house. You know how people say, like, don't air your dirty laundry? These are like what's going on inside the house, let's say. How the processes started up or didn't start up and conflicts local to your server. So I don't think I've ever seen these directly being shipped off. We're always shipping these type of logs off. Your var log messages, var log secure, those type of logs, that kind of stuff. All right. So anyway, so now we know what logs are. And then we pull up this.
How do you attract a man? What I mean is, suppose you set your heart on somebody. What would you do to get him?
Grab him and take him.
You grab him and take him.
That's what you do with your logs.
Take him.
You grab them and you take them.
Like that.
Just like that. Anybody here know what that movie's from? That is a fantastic classic movie, if you guys haven't seen it. But how do you get your logs? You grab them and you take them. And then later it's, well, what do you do when you have them? Well, it's simple. You join the logs, right? All right, anyway, so log storage and rotation. So log rotation is an essential automated process in Linux that keeps our logs from getting too large. We need to, even if we don't get back to the server later, remember I said right at the beginning, we always want to pull things off in real time. That's 100% true. That does not mean that a server can't still keep some of those logs locally. And it probably should, because let's say the server's not down, we can go and we can parse the logs and do whatever we need to with it, right? So there's a log rotate utility called, it's log rotate. And you can go set it up in etsy-logrotate.conf, but also you can go into etsy-logrotate.d. And let's say your app had its own logging, like you had var log, your app name, and then some logs, right? And you had like maybe good access and bad access and whatever crap you want in there. You can use log rotate as a facility to rotate your own system logs for your app that you have. I am going to posit that maybe I want to send them off in real time somewhere else, but that's going to be something for you guys to play with. My goal in this course isn't necessarily to like be prescriptive and be like, This is the way that I've always done it, guys. I'm not a systems engineer that cares what the app is doing on top. I care that my platform is stable, right? So my experience for 20 something years of this career is keeping my platform good. Some of you guys are in here. We had a question earlier about like being an SRE and a site reliability engineer and these other things. You guys are concerned with what the app's doing up here. And that app has to be dumping logs as well. And this may be something that you find useful. Or you may be that some of the stuff we're going to do in the lab where I have you writing, where do I have it here? This stuff. So this is like when you want to use Python to write out to Loki, it's something like this, right? And this right here is just my little, write up and how I do it in one of our labs, one of our Ansible labs. Actually, it's not even an Ansible lab. It's a monitoring lab inside of Killer Coda, and you're using this 127.0.0.1. But in our lab here, we're going to be doing this to my actual Loki system, and you're going to actually be hitting, you're actually going to be writing into this guy here, right here. And we're not going to be using the app secure or any of these apps. We're going to have our own one named for this, and then you're going to also be able to pull out any of the logs or anything that anybody else has written in there. So you're going to be able to see all the different logs that people wrote, because we're going to have a label, like in this case, source testing, job, lab logging. We'll probably do like lab security engineering or something, 6 maybe, and then now you're going to be able to drop messages in there, and all of you are going to be able to read them out for the week. This is going to be when we get to the architecture stuff. This is a different type of architecture. But what I wanted to show you guys is, I actually don't know where that goes with this, but that's neither here nor there. But we want to be able to get the logs, whatever. All right, so then sending logs off the server. There's a bunch of architectures that are very common here. Our SysLogs the easiest. It's been around my entire career. I have a lab on it that's like, I hate calling things stupid simple, but sometimes things are really simple. It's this simple. This is the lab. In fact, I'll pull it up here and show you guys the lab. Where's he at? Right here. The lab is on Killer Coda, and it's this simple right here. You go to, where's he at? I think I moved it, our syslog right here. And all you do in this lab, literally all you do in this lab, is you go in and you set one node to send to another node. Then you go over to that node and you set him to catch all the logs. So there's 2 nodes. One is sending logs to the other. And then you just verify that all the logs are going to that other node. And then you say, well, how does that work in the enterprise? Well, then you just go do it on all 1,000 servers, and they all point to one. And then you just make sure that he's got enough disk space and network for it. And probably want to make him be only for that. But then you say, yeah, over like a 10 gig link, is that fine? Yeah. Those servers are chilling. He's writing a lot of logs. He's got a lot of I/O to his backplane. You might want to have some consideration on the disks that you have in there and stuff. But for the most part, no, it's very low load, very light. It's just writing all the logs in. The average Linux server, at least in my experience, that's doing just Linux things and sitting there, is generating anywhere between like 17 and 18 megs of logs a day. So then you take that by 1,000. And he's writing however many gigs a day, typically, that one box that's catching it from all those other ones. Now, that's before any app logs. Once you have app logs and you're doing other bullshit, look, I couldn't tell you right now, like, hey, Colkiss's web server does 343 megs of logs a day. I couldn't tell you that. I have no idea. But I'm saying generally, like a Linux box that's sitting there generates somewhere between it's like 7 and 18 is probably the average that I've seen. And you might say that's kind of a large, yeah, you're going to have to see what your servers do. It's going to differ how often they check NTP and how often they do DNS. There's all kinds of configurable things that are going to change that. But I've seen Linux servers barely generate any logs, and I've seen them generate up to around like almost 20 maybe megs a day. Again, that's without anything else going on top of them. So anyway, so we're here. So our syslog, by far the most common one. The more modern way of doing it, and the way that we see in systems a lot, is some kind of log aggregation with agents. So they go back to a centralized platform. So Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana, what people call the ELK stack, this is commonly used, which is funny because the ELK stack only talks about the platform. The agents that write into Elasticsearch are typically called the beats agents, so metric beat and log beat. And then there's like 10 other, there's a whole bunch of beats. I don't even know them all. I just have ever used those two. Then there's Splunk, and Splunk has what's called the heavy forwarders and the regular forwarders. So Splunk is the aggregation, but it's also the name of the tool that forwards. Graylog, I've never used Graylog, but I just found it on the list, so I thought that was okay. I use Loki heavily, and Loki can be written into via just direct writes or with an agent like Promtail. Promtail is the agent that's designed to write in there, and that's what I do in most of my monitoring, right? That kind of stuff. Inspector said, my logger daemon is cat. I just make it standard to UDP of the devlog. Fair enough, fair enough. And then another one, and I only ran into this one. The first time I ever saw this model right here that I'm going to talk about was in 2020 with a system from HP. Well, it was from Cray, and Cray built some really fast supercomputers, and we were putting one in for NOAA, and the Cray Shasta system used message queues. Everything that we did, all of our systems logged into Kafka, and then Kafka on the far end, Elasticsearch had a tool that was pulling it out. I think it might have just been some kind of Kafka, because you have Kafka producers writing and Kafka consumers reading, and it was basically just a Kafka consumer that was reading out, dumping it into Elasticsearch, and then it ended with Kibana. So you say, so it was basically like Elasticsearch Kibana, but with Kafka in front of it, and then all the nodes were just writing directly into their logs were going directly into Kafka, and that worked just fine. RabbitMQ is one. Another message queue that's very common is Event Bridge in AWS, so that's one of these cloud ones. And then we've got cloud native logging services. So what I mean by that is like all of the cloud providers have their own logging services that are built into their EC2 or Google Cloud Platform, whatever the service is, they have logging that's built in. And they also have, like with AWS, they have the virtual private cloud VPC flow logs, so you can see all the flow of data in and out. And actually those flow logs can be applied to any of the interfaces that are actually attached to any of your EC2 instances. So you can actually watch data flow in or out of your EC2 instances as well. I mostly can speak to AWS because I know the architecture a lot better, but I know all the other cloud providers have similar things as well. But the idea is cloud native. If you're in the cloud, use the cloud native tool. That's what that last one is. I would say I probably use this one the most on government systems right here, our syslog. It's a STIG standard, so you do it. In non-government but still high-performance compute systems, I've built this probably the most, just sending data to Loki. And then in some very specialized high-performance compute cases, I've seen Kafka used for this. But if you want to know, if you say, Scott, I've heard of this message queuing before, but outside the context of logging, and I want to know more about it. People have talked about this event-driven programming, or taking a bunch of systems or processes and making an event bus. That's over here. I always show you guys this. If you're like, Scott, I want to learn that, it's this right here. So you go to serverless land, and you go learn about event-driven architectures. Now, will this be heavily AWS versioned? Sure, yeah, it's AWS under the hood, but event bridges are event bridges are event bridges. You're trying to learn the architecture to learn the type, and then you can go and do any other one. And by the way, yes, that picture is moving. I remember one day I was sitting here like reading and I was studying stuff, and I had that off to the side, and it was just going like this, and I was like, is that? It wasn't at the bottom of the screen, so it was so obvious. It was like this, and I was like, is that? And I thought I was losing my mind because I was like doing something else, and out of the corner of my eye, that thing was just, oh, where's my little thing? It was going like this. I was like, am I losing my fucking mind with this thing? So anyways, yeah, so that's that. Anyway, so with logging, but just logging, right? Take that other stuff outside. There's all kinds of other architectures that can come off of, like Kafka's like this awesome, just Kafka's always ready to write, right? Yeah. So, all right, so we'll go down here. So why you would pick one of these is going to deal with a lot of these different things. I just mentioned something earlier called the STIG standard. Well, if you are dealing with a very specific set of government standards and you're trying to get your devices to a certain STIG score, you can't just ignore the fact that they want you to use our syslog. And you say, yeah, but I put a different tool in it. That's not how required. That's how, You guys have never look. Let me give a nice little fun little piece of advice for people that have never worked with government stuff. The government stuff has to check every box. Does not matter how well you do something else. You could be the most brilliant this, and this, and this, but they also want you to have structured query language, and you just say, I'm never doing SQL in my life. I hate it. I don't have that, and you don't put it on your resume and you refuse to talk about it. I guarantee you could be the #1 candidate in all the other areas, but you have, with a missed box like that, it's nothing. The way the U.S. government works and their contracting and everything is you must check all of the required boxes. That's a requirement. You could do everything like crap, and you will still beat somebody who does everything perfectly but misses one. I don't know if you guys knew that. That's like if you ever go to USA Jobs or something, you're trying to get one of those jobs, you better have like all of those things on there. I think it's usajobs.gov or something like that. But anyways, here's the scale. Number of server and volume being of the logs being generated. Well, our syslog can handle thousands. I've seen our syslog do thousands. I've never seen it go up to 10,000, but I mean, that's probably just because I've never had to do that. But reliability requirements. How critical is it that all the logs are delivered? Well, do you use our syslog for that? Our syslog is also highly available, highly reliable for that as well. I've never even seen one of those boxes with thousands of connections be under load. So you will have some I/O pathing back to disk that you have to think about. But how critical is it that all logs are delivered? Is it super high? Do you need to have now redundant logs and then have the ability for the log parsers to go to different places? There's all kinds of things to start to think about. But now we get to where, whereas rsync is great for this stuff. rsync sucks at this. Real-time analysis needs. Do you need to look at the logs in real time for alerting or dashboards? Our syslog isn't really designed to do any of that. So now you have to have another tool on top of it. And there's nothing wrong with having another tool on top of it. I'm just saying it is, if you wanted to keep your solution as simple as possible, now you're building something else to do that functionality. That's my point. Whereas like a tool like Loki handles this natively. Because Loki says, you could throw stuff in, you could also pull stuff out via API. And then now you've got a solution for, using a more modern tool like Grafana to pull Loki. And that's what I do. If you guys have ever looked in the lab or done any of our stuff, the way that I show all the failed logins, this is the failed logins for the last 6 hours to my home device, my home Bastion node. These are all the failed logins for the last 6 hours. This is just being pulled out of Loki. And then Loki is feeding in from Promptail's just feeding Loki logs in real time out of my system. In fact, it's doing an IO. What's that tool? Whatever that IO watch tool is on the back end, Promptail just keeps an eye on that. I have some stuff I've written in that, but it doesn't matter. All right, budget. Is there software licensing, hardware, and operational overhead? This is huge, man. I've joked around about this for years, but this is 100% true. Have any of you guys ever used Splunk? I don't even know what the logo for Splunk is, but I know the logo for Splunk should be a big, one of those big Spartan holes in the ground, and you just walking up to it and dumping a wheelbarrow full of money in it. That's what it should be. No, it's not IO Top. It's IO Wait and IO Watch. Hold on. I got those. Hold on. Because this is bugging me. I think I got it on Llama server. Hold on. Or did I do that from somewhere else? Is Llama down? Did I turn Llama off? I probably got Llama off. Yeah, maybe I never turned Llama back on. We had a process. I don't know where it is. Shit, I don't remember where it was. I don't know where it is. Anyways, I got it in there somewhere. It's IOWatch and IOWait, but Splunk, if you can afford, yeah, Splunk is very expensive, right? But Splunk also watches your logs in real time and starts to like look at patterns. And if you start to get more like, just you get a weird info message, you know, every 5 seconds, and from one of your or every 5 minutes from one of your servers, you get one message, and that moves up to like 100 messages every 5 minutes. Splunk will catch that. Splunk will be like, that's kind of weird, bro. That's outside of like normal growth for that and what we've seen in the pattern of like the last 3 months, and it'll ding outliers like that. Like I can't snap with that hand like that. He'll just do it. This hand, I do jujitsu, so my hands are chronically like, this is like my knuckles all jammed up right now. That's pretty much my life all the time. My knuckles are always jacked. But anyway, so I can't snap with this hand at all right now. I could probably barely snap with it in general, but right now it's, yeah. Expertise, the skills of your team in managing different logging technology. Guys, this is huge. I was talking to the guy that's architecting the next version of like the big NOAA INSEP supercomputers, right? Because this one is going till about 2030, and we start planning them around now. And he wants to go to 3 data centers. And he and I were talking, and he was asking me about some of these different technologies under Kubernetes and stuff, like just modernizing his stuff. The guy's very, he's been around a long time. He's very sharp, but he had not used some of these newer technologies. So he and I were talking about them. And one of the things he was asking me about was like, well, what about this, like with Kubernetes and this thing? And I said, well, the nice thing about that is you're going to have a lot of engineers that can support it. And he's like, yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. But like, it's always been traditionally very hard to find HPC engineers, because you need somebody that's got Linux. They've got to have some storage, at least a minimum of some storage. They have to have strong networking, and they're almost, I don't want to call people unicorns, but they're like these, there's less of them. There's less of them than there are Windows admins. Let's just put it that way, right? Well, so he wants to introduce Kubernetes to that. And what I was telling him was, you're going to find a lot of young, like newer engineers that are very familiar with Kubernetes, because Kubernetes has been the thing for the last few years, probably the last 8 years. It's been growing and getting pretty big and stuff. So I said, when you start to introduce that, you're going to find people with the right skills on their resume. And he goes, yeah, I hadn't even thought about all that. And I'm like, yeah, you want to put data centers 3 different parts of the U.S., you want to make sure that you have the people to go in them. Like, one of the things that actually works really well for me with my NOAA project is I just happen to live like 3 miles from the data center. I didn't move there. I just lived there. Where they decided to put it in Phoenix is only a little bit away from my house here. So, all right. We talked about expertise, compliance requirements, any specific regulations or log retention or security. Do you have logging requirements? Like some of the stuff that I do in some of my government systems, it processes on the supercomputer and then gets sent off. And the artifacts and the things that happen in the supercomputer aren't all that interesting. They're not that important. They don't need to be rerun ever. So the logging retention of those isn't real. All the products that are generated with them go out in real time. All the original data is still kept. The original sensor data is still kept. But like what happened inside the machine, the sauce that made it work every 6 hours for all the weather prediction, it's not that important. So, it doesn't get retained for 30 years. You couldn't go back and reprocess any of that. You'd have to pull the info back in, which the raw info's there, but not the what happened during the processing, right? Because again, and that's also it's very ephemeral. Like if you do like we do everywhere out to like 10-day weather predictions, after 10 days you knew if you were right or wrong, so it doesn't really matter anymore. Yeah, the record of what was predicted is still there. Don't get me wrong, but I'm saying like, you don't need the process of how you got there. Anyways, all right. And then also existing infrastructure. This is super important in almost all points. If we're an on-premise company trying to go to the cloud, everything we build in the cloud, we shouldn't be trying to integrate it back to our SysLog system. We should be thinking about doing it cloud native. And then one of the nice things is cloud native ties directly back in with Grafana anyways, so we can pull that data out if we're already using some of those. But the point is, of these architectures here, we're going to try to use one that's native to whatever we're doing, right? So, all right. So that's sending logs off our servers. And then we get into using the logs. So this goes back to our, did anybody find that movie yet? I know some of you guys knew what that movie is. But once I have a log, what do I do with it? In the movie, she says, but once I have the man, what do I do with it? And he goes, well, that's easy. I think he says that's easy. I might have to change my GIF here. He goes, that's easy. You just join. And then he gets all scared and runs away. And that's, so now what are we going to do with these logs now that we've gathered them and moved them off our server and all that kind of stuff? Coffee Overland, yeah, you use Splunk at work. Yeah, and there's probably a fair amount of, right here, like you have some learning curve to it. Splunk, I've always remembered Splunk has had some learning curve to it. So you have to have people, but there are a fair amount of people that know Splunk, which is also good. All right, so anyway, so once I have a log, what do I do with it? Well, that's simple. You just join, and then he runs off because he's all scared. All right, so parsing logs with text tools. So what do we have? What about Grafana Loki? Yeah, ArchCO, I don't know if you just got here, but yeah, I use Grafana with Loki in the home lab. Yeah, we're going to do that actually in the course this week. This is my review. This is the stuff that we're going to do for the course. Yeah, I have Loki to Grafana all over the place here. But so here's some tips for effective log parsing when you're using text tools, when you're just on a box, right? You got to understand your log format. You got to start simple. Like I like to carve things up simply and then use regular expressions to carve down to what you need, iterate and refine exactly what you're trying to figure out, and then maybe save off useful commands so that you can get them to work or you can go and turn them into automation, right? So if I was like on one of my boxes here, right? Let's go back. We'll go to Rocky 19, right? And we say, what's his uptime? He's been up 2 days, so he's got some logs on him. He's a stateful node, so he doesn't keep logs when he reboots, but his logs do go off in real time, right? I can check that. Promtail is sending stuff off. If we want to go to opt promtail, that's fucking annoying. And then these are where we're sending varlog messages, and varlog secure are going up into our Loki app, right? So we've got all that going, but maybe I need to parse this local log here. So I maybe look at the data. I might go look at the data for a second. More varlog secure, right? I want to go look at varlog secure, and I want to go, okay, I've got April 30th through May 1st. Maybe I just wanted, just as like a simple start, I just wanted to look at, this might be better in my, we'll do this system, it's fine. Maybe just real quick, I do something like this. I say maybe cat varlog secure, right? So we'll just dump everything. And maybe we throw it through word count -L and we see, oh, there's only 39 lines to it. I go, okay, all right, well, that's not great. You can also just do a word count -L and it'll count the lines for you. But let's cat it and let's grep. Actually, we're going to do this a little different. We're not going to grep anything. We're just going to awk that first line or that first column, right? So the first column is here, and then I'm not counting all that. It's way too much to count. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to sort them. They're already sorted in this case, but maybe we're looking for events, so we do have to sort them. And then I'm going to do a unique-C. And if you guys have never seen unique-C, it'll unique them all for you, and it'll count them for you. So I say, okay, through all this, now I've got April and May as that. And then maybe I go here and I say, that's cool, but maybe I want this other. Let's go jump over to my main, where's my main jump box here? All right. Let's see if I just dump that in here. I don't even know what this is going to look like. But now on my Jumpo 1, I have 5,065 in April and 3,067 in May of these events. And you might look at that and you might go, well, that's kind of weird because we're only in the second day of May. How does May have nearly as many events as April? Well, there might be something else going on with these logs. So etc log rotate, right? Maybe we go and we look at how these logs are being reloaded. This one is probably, I don't see it here. So it could be, oh, there it is. It's syslog. Cat syslog, right? And then we see that varlog messages is getting rotated as often as logrotate.conf goes off. So cat etc logrotate.conf. Oops. Help if I spelled it right. And it says it's doing monthly, and it's var log WT. Oh, sorry. Let's go look up here. Yeah, it's rotating weekly. That's what I expected to see. So out of Etsy log rotate.d, those are going to get log rotated weekly, which then starts to make a little more sense as to why this is nearly the same size, even though we're only in the second day of May. Seems like that's a little bit more than there would normally be. But anyway, so the point is we could start to look at logs like that. We can also start to look at logs for maybe the things that we care about. Go to var log, and maybe on this system we just grep for failed from var log secure. And maybe, okay, that's interesting. That's failed. That's a lot of stuff. Maybe I want to know just things that have failed that are invalid, right? So maybe I look for failed, and then I also look for invalid. And then now maybe I want to know the scale of that in relation to just the normal failed. So then I start to see, well, var log secure has failed 1,359 times, but 811 of those, or I guess you could just simplify it to about every 8/13th. It's 8 out of every 13 are going to be for something invalid. The other failures are going to be for real things. And maybe I want to just find the real things. I could do a grep-iv for invalid and find only the real things. And then I could start to dig into maybe things that are real users that were having problems logging into a system or whatever. AU report is kind of nice, at least on Red Hat. We're going to get special tools here in a second. I'm just doing like, if you're just what's that scene that just came out? There's some movie with I think it's Harrison Ford, and he keeps telling the girl, he's like, you keep raw dogging me in front of everybody, and they're like, dude, stop it. That's not what you. He thinks it just means like you're hitting him out of the blue, or you're like blindsiding him. But she's like, that means you're having sex with him, and he goes, oh, well then I will stop using it. That's just kind of a funny. Anyway, so yeah, I'm on just parsing log with text right now. So like simple, like, and I don't even actually get into that tool, but maybe I do need to. Guys, we won't, like, one of the things that we'll never get into in some of these is all the tools, like all the things. I mean, we could sit right here all day on the modern log aggregation stuff, right? There's so many things that we could do here. And yeah, our SysLog still gets deployed in government systems, and so it's still big. Anyways, so we come down here. Where was I at? Parsing logs with simple text tools, right? Then you start to use special tools, right? Because again, one person can only do so much, and touching one server is only so much. Even if you're at the big pile of log aggregation you can still only do so much with a command line tool. You get to the end of a lot of stuff, and we're gonna do some in the lab, and I'm gonna do some live tomorrow when we're talking. Like, we'll carve some stuff up, and we'll figure out how to look through things in a log, sure, but there are also specialized tools. So Splunk has dashboards built in. Splunk, you can build dashboards to look at stuff. LogQL is the way that we speak to Loki. And also there are other tools that feed off of LogQL. I don't know all of the tools, but I know for sure Loki uses it. And then there's other things that are using LogQL. And the reason I know that is because I've seen people exploit LogQL. They're like, oh, they've got this open, I can just go read stuff off of it, right? So I have this in here too as well, if you guys have never used this. Let me pull this up real quick. So they've got a LogQL simulator. So they just give you a bunch of logs. But I'm going to show you something that I don't recommend in the industry. But in the home lab, who cares? In the home lab, I can. So if you guys were like, hey Scott, I want to understand this stuff better, you could just cat var log secure. Again, do not do this from your enterprise, guys. This is what I'm about to do is very bad practice from your enterprise. But from home lab here, I don't give a shit if they have my numbers. I don't care if they find out who was trying to log into my server or my internal stuff. You could grab like just a block of your data here, and you can dump it in. Do not do this in your enterprise, guys. You will at best get yourself fired if you do this stuff, because you don't know who's storing this or what this is. But I'm using data I literally don't care about. But now I can come in here and I can use this to analyze this data here, which by the way is in an unstructured text format. So I need to I need to note that. So Control A, delete, Control V. So now I've dumped in my unstructured text, and I can do an unstructured job query against this, but I don't know how to do that, guys. Unfortunately, I don't know what I'm doing. So now I got to come down here, right? And I got to go look at how I can find things. So if I knew it was logql, I could use this format, but I'm using unstructured text. So maybe I just want to come down here and search. Maybe I can just find some specific thing like this. I know this is not the exact same one, but maybe if they'll let me, I could just look for invalid here. And will this find invalid for me? Ah, look, it didn't find any of those other ones, but it did find these lines with the word invalid. So I had no idea what I was doing, but now I just figured out, look at all these no, not invalids, yes, invalids. And it was smart enough to find upper or lowercase for me. Oops, here's upper and lowercase, because we knew, we figured this out on the fly, right? That I could use capital I or lowercase I in like a regex, right? So, look, again, I'm not trying to be prescriptive and be like, hey guys that are doing the security engineering course this week, you must spend 12 hours doing this type. That's not the point of this. The point is to show you guys this, and then you can go spin off all these other ways that you might want. Also, really interesting, my music just stopped and a helicopter just flew overhead. That's kind of strange. Never had my music just stop like that. Also, turn all that off. What's it go to? Okay. Hopefully start it all back over. There we go. All right. So that's that part of it. Elk, Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana, Graylog. Like there's all these there's tools. So sorry, I probably should clarify on this one. Elk is the previous architecture, right? Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kibana with the metric beats feeding in. But the tool that you use to actually parse the logs is Kibana. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever built, but Kibana just you just go in and you can just look at the data kind of the same way and build little dashboards. Although it's not as guided as something as like Splunk might be. It's kind of it's open source, so it's like a little less. Also, Elasticsearch has been forked off as OpenSearch, so any of you guys doing anything up in AWS are going to see OpenSearch instead. I've never used Graylog. I just know it's there. I know it's possible. And then there's libraries, right? You can send stuff up via libraries. You can send it up in all kinds of different ways that you want to send it up. For me, in the home lab, I tend to send things like this. Where's that one at? It's over in the Loki. So we might do the Linux logging, and then you guys will do this. But actually, I'm going to take this and I'm going to turn this into one of our local labs, and then this will be pointed to our internal Loki, which I think is 180, 192.168.11.180, and you guys will push it in, and then you'll be able to pull the data out as well. I'll write the one that'll pull it. Now, this right here is a good start, but then when we secure it in week 10, we have to go back and retool all this because now we're using certificates. So you can't talk directly anymore once we do the certificate. So it's like all that kind of stuff. Yep. Yeah. Okay, so all this, this is what the course, and then when to use special tools if you have large log volumes, right? Like if you're just, this is outside of just normal stuff. Oh, I didn't make all these. I only made that one bold. I need to bold all these. So complex log formats. So some of these tools are going to be better for unstructured or inconsistent formats than you can just be doing stuff at the command line. If you need real-time analysis and alerting, then you're going to go generate the monitoring and those kind of things, which will be next week. We're actually going to do that in week 7. So 6 and 7 are going to be monitoring and logging both times. But monitoring and logging this week, and then logging and alerting next week. So we're going to actually turn some of these into alerts and send something up to the Discord. So then whenever we'll make it so that when somebody logs in or they log out, we'll actually get alerts up into the sandbox or something, right? We'll do all that. Requirements for visualization, again, that's going to be way better than anything you're going to do with the command line and bash, right? Security analysis, because you know there's just more time in it. Security analysis, you might want to identify and investigate security threats, and this starts to feed into a concept I didn't even bring up yet. SIEM, right? I think I talked SIEM. Do I mention SIEM? I do say it up here. Security information and event management solutions. There are so many things that you can feed logs into that will help you make decisions. That we just, it'll make your head spin. So for me, let's get the logs off the system first. Let's get this going, and then we'll worry about the security analysis as we kind of keep going further along. And then sometimes for compliance requirements, long-term retention and auditing. I work on some systems where you have to keep logs for like 7 years, and I work on some systems where they literally don't care about the logs after like a week. If we don't need to troubleshoot something, we don't care about the logs anymore. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, it depends on the system. It's not that people are more flippant about it. It's just what do people actually think they need their logs for based on, you know, their past experiences. So, our review: what was a log? Immutable record of an action that occurred. Again, you could take those and you can cause all kinds of things to happen after, but in the initial setup, it should be immutable. The initial thing that happens is an immutable action. How do we use logs? Well, we use logs to look at events and look at things that are happening in our system, look for errors and all those kind of things, and we had a whole page on that. What are some common log elements? Well, there should be standards, and then we should adhere to those standards. If we have to make our own logs or do our own logging, we should at least attempt to have those severity rules built into them, right? Where do we store logs? Well, we can have a centralized location on a server, typically in var log in most Linux systems. We rotate those for space and compression. Mainly we rotate those so that we don't have to worry about it. Like if we rotate and only keep the last 5 versions of monthly logs, we'll have 5 months of logs, and then we compress them so we save a lot of space. It's all good. But then you should always, this is one of the most important things I can tell you guys, you need to get logs off servers in real time. You cannot be waiting until a server comes back up to look at its logs. That's garbage. That's like the worst way. When is potentially dropping logs okay? Depends on what everything that I've ever seen in my career is, it depends on what the risk appetite of the organization is. If the organization says, hey, we don't think that we're ever going to need, and also sometimes it's knee-jerk reaction, right? Sometimes people start off and they're like, well, hey, we can store, only 6 months of logs, so we're not going to pay that extra money. But then something comes along where they do need something from 7 months before, then it's like a knee-jerk reaction, and now you're configuring it to last longer, and you got to add more hardware and stuff. I've seen that happen. That sucks. That stuff's all better in the cloud, or it is better in the cloud, because typically in the cloud it's easy to add storage. In the data center, guys, adding storage it's not the hardest thing. It's just time consuming. It takes months and months to get stuff in and configured, and you might say, well, it shouldn't take that long. We're kind of like a startup. Yeah, okay, a startup may grind that down to about 2 weeks, but still, from the time you put in the purchase order till you get something and then get it stood up and get it integrated, even if you have really talented engineers, that's still time, right? That still takes some time. So, anyways, and then why do we get them off in real time? Yeah, we got to look at them. We have to be able to look at stuff even if it's down. And then how do we parse and look at specific information from logs? We can use command line tools. And I'd say there's probably like 7 or 8 that you use all the time, right? You cat them out, you maybe head them or tail them to look at what's happening. Maybe you do a tail -F for a few minutes to just kind of see what's going on. You're going to use a lot of grep, and you're going to learn your regex to at least find certain things. For me, I do a lot of cutting and awking to find just a specific set of fields, and then I do a lot of organizing them and ordering them, and then finding the scale of like I'll look for weeks back and see. Let's see if I can show you an example of this. Hold on, because I've done this before. What was I doing here? I was doing secure. So let's go to, we'll just head var log messages. How far does messages go back? It only goes to April 27th. All right, let's go look at Is Moodle up? Let me see if my Moodle server's up. I'm not sure if he's up, but if he is, nope. Let's go to K8s. I think these ones probably have longer logging. Geez. You guys got to help me out. Prod K8s. I'm not thinking straight today. All right, so let's see var log. I think I'm having like a. Am I having a stroke or something? What the fuck's going on with me? All right. Oh, so we have all these messages. All right, that'll work. So let's look at all these. We have all these messages. So even if it is rotating every week, which it is, that's fine because I'll just do all the messages. I don't care. All right. So one thing I might do here, like if I was just looking at this, I might want to find. So let's just let's go look at. Oh, actually, well, we could even just do it like this. But we'll do it by reading all of them. So we'll cat messages out. Right, everything messages. Boom, dump everything to the screen. It's gonna be a lot of time, right? That's a lot. Spectre said Gulag doesn't want to ever drop audit logs. All right, look. So this is going all the way up to now. It's fine. What's my standard here look like? So I see I've got April. I've got some space and then the a number. And let's say that I was just trying to parse. I'm gonna cat that same thing that I just did. I'm just gonna cat everything out of messages, and then I'm gonna say okay, but I also just want now the give me from awk the first and the second field, right? And let's just dump that to the screen real quick. All right, you can see what that's doing. All right, so now I have the first and the second field, and then I say okay, and now sort them, and then do a unique -c on them. And at the beginning of that, I want a time. I want to know how long it takes my system to do this too. So this is my prod Kubernetes system, and it's doing a bunch of logging, but I want to know, like, I just want to kind of weigh for the last month how many logs went into var log messages every day. That's it right there. About 45,000, 45,000. One day, that's a high outlier. 72,000. That may be something weird. But do you guys see how, like, at a high level I can back out and I can like do like a scan, and this is a really low. What the hell's going on April 29th? That's really low. Those are all really low. Was this when like our server wasn't doing something that it should have, or something was? Those are all low. But there's enough of those that I'm okay with it. But this is like some really high outlier of all of them. Do you guys see that? I'm just eyeballing it, but it's like I don't see anything above 46. Yeah, 45,000 is the highest I see anywhere, and then I see 72,000. So now maybe if I was expecting something, obviously we can just go to whatever day we wanted. If we knew it was yesterday, we'd just go look at yesterday's time. But I'm saying if I was just looking for stuff that was, out of the ordinary on my servers, that might be part. Oh, there is a 56,000, isn't there? And maybe that 56,000 is similar because whatever happened on the 19th might have rolled over into the 20th, but then it stopped happening by the 21st, right? In fact, if I had to guess, there was some event that crossed the 19th and the 20th as far as the threshold of whatever it was doing. I don't know what it was doing. We can go look into it, but I have now a place to go look. Like if somebody just gave me these logs and said, Scott, find out what's different, that's the first thing I would do. But you might also say, Scott, when like your tool like Loki probably have some cooler tools and be easier. Yeah, maybe, right? But I'm using what I know. So then, where was I going with that? Yeah, when you parse your logs with command line tools, you can use the tools in a bunch of different ways to try to find things. And then now I can in my future searches then say I want April 19th or April 20th. So then I might, just for fun, I might do something like this again. I don't need this anymore, right? I don't need any of this stuff anymore. In fact, I don't even need the cat, guys. You don't really, we joke around about it's abusing the cat to always use cat when you could just grep it, but it's fine. It doesn't really matter. Grep-I capital E now, and I know that I have an April 19 or an April 20. And then if I just do this real quick, this word count should be 72 plus 56, so I don't know, is that 128 or so? Should be about 128,000 lines, right? From that. 129. Okay, good. Yeah, I was looking past the first two. All right. So now we got that, and then in here I might start to look for, right? Maybe in here I look for error, and then maybe there were more errors happening during that time. By the way, I should probably look at errors compared to my other things, but I'm now just digging into just that time, and I could just go start to figure out a bunch of different stuff. Maybe actually this would be a good one. So this is real quick. Here's all the messages in that time, right? We know it's 129,000 something. But what if I just wanted to real quick? I wanted to say, but is it? Real quick. So we're gonna grep for kubelet now, right? Kubelet is the tool that interacts with our system, and 41,000 of those are coming from kubelet. Now, you might say, why does that matter to you, Scott? Well, if we go look at our original numbers again, guys, this is not. I went too far back. This number, where's that? Yeah, that number. This is not an engineering thing. This is now an art. And you say, Scott, how do you differentiate what's art and what's engineering? Well, if I can tell you a specific set of steps to do something, or I can give you an algorithm, then we're engineering. If it's something like this, like where I'm like, it's a little this and it's a little that, now we're doing art. It's like, that kind of looks cool with that color. That's art, right? It's not exactly the same thing. So anyway, so I'm coming down here, I'm parsing these out, and again, I could go look at any one of these and maybe see that most of those were kubelets. So that's what I was going with here, was when I got down into just looking at kubelet, and I see that there's about 20,000 per day, let's say average. Well, then that makes me think, well, maybe all those messages in there are kubelet, and now we want to see maybe everything that's not kubelet. So let's take kubelet out, right? And then now, before it flows too fast, we'll go more. Let's just see what's happening on that system besides that. All these other things. Network manager's doing a whole bunch. I wonder if network manager was having a problem during that time. Maybe not. Maybe everything's got a lot of network manager. But I'm sitting here, and when I took kubelet away, all this stuff is network manager. Did I have something? Did I break something during that time? It's very possible I broke something during that time. Right? Anyway, so there's all this stuff. It's actually interesting, because this is a production cluster for me. This is something that I actually have exposed out for people to use and see things on our system. So are things actually working? Are things trying to use interfaces that aren't there? I could start to go figure all that out. Anyways, we're not doing that right now. We'll hit that tomorrow in the actual course. Remember, I said earlier, we're not actually doing the course today. I'm just going through my notes for you guys. But I think I think that we got this pretty well set up. So this is what we're doing there. Now, I'm gonna pull up this, get this out of the way, because that's stuff that we'll all do tomorrow. The course is free, guys. It's in the Discord. In the sysadmin version, we're in Unit 6 for both. On the sysadmin one, we're doing firewalls. So Linux administration, just hitting firewalls on a local host, right? Host firewalls. 5M for me is daily is the plan. I'm missing stuff, guys. Sorry. Franco, thanks for that. I appreciate being called awesome. My goal is to make stuff that shows you guys that you guys can do this stuff. But what I still need to clean up, by the way, there's Ranger. He's been moving around on his beds, just laying around. It's getting hot in Phoenix. It's 91 again today. So we're getting warm again. This is what I need to update now, is the Unit 6 stuff, and I need to update these. So let's get this all. And we'll get this out of the way. And you might say, Scott, why aren't you getting rid of everything? Well, because I want to leave the formatting, right? And one of the things that Word loves doing is cleaning up all your formatting for you. So, all right. So now, here we are. with all the stuff we need, and now I need to do 72 there today, and you had rain. That's a pretty decent little haze. That's a pretty good all around. We're just gonna get. I mean, Phoenix now. We had like our last little. That was our last little push down. Like we had a day the other day that was only like 72 here, 72 or 73, but now we're about to just shoot up and. Yeah, we have rain. Yeah, so we have what's called a monsoon season out here in Phoenix, where it's the end of July, early August, maybe into September sometimes. But it's just this time of just death. It's high humidity for us because our humidity is typically down around like 20 or lower. We have real low humidity here, and then it's just brutal. So, all right, what am I missing here? I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Coming up with stuff. Looks like we got an ad starting again too on the Twitch side. There's a lot of ads on Twitch, I know. And it's actually funny because I have the ads set like they are so that we don't get pre-rolls. But I'm pretty sure the other day somebody said that they got an ad right when they first came in. You guys should not get ads when you come in our channel. That's what's called a pre-roll ad. They should not be doing that. The only problem with Phoenix is looking. Yeah, Phoenix is actually a little known fact. Phoenix is closer to the sun than any other spot on Earth. Like actually, if you look at the rings going out, you've got Mercury, Venus, something, Earth, and then we're closer. We're actually closer here in Phoenix than parts of Venus are. So no, I'm just kidding. That's not. There's a meme of that where like Phoenix is closer than other planets. It's actually kind of funny. Yeah. It shows like the rings, and then it's like Phoenix is closer than some of the other rings. Like it's not even attached. It's kind of funny. It is pretty hot here. Also, I need to so we need to get our definition. So our patching, not patching now, but this will be our logging definitions, and then I'm gonna show you guys something fun. You can go here and you can hit Control-Shift-T, and it'll reopen the last tab that you've deleted. So if you ever need to do that, and I'm gonna change this out here to be the query analyzer because I want you guys to know about the query analyzer. And we're not going to use any of those tools, but I don't need to get rid of them. They can stay there. This one is what is his name? Logs and parsing. All right. We got to close this, clean this up. And we need to clean this up and clean this up. That's how I remind myself. I just leave them empty. All right. So then now we got to put together our questions and stuff. Inspector said had a few days of hammock weather, trying not to install. Oh, good old McAfee. Phoenix will be. It'll be nice to be outside again, probably in like late September, early October again. Sometimes the summer just doesn't break off. Like I think summer this last year, I want to say it like went all the way. And you guys might say no, summer still ends. No, not out here. Summer keeps going. We really only have 2 seasons out here. We have summer and then like a tiny little bit of like winter, and then it starts over again in summer. But anyways, where was I going with that? We had shoot, I don't even remember. I think my brain just broke. Let me show something. I haven't. I don't think. I mean, most of my regulars are here, but not my regulars that like to tell people about Discord. So here's our Discord over on the Twitch side. I'll link that over for you guys on YouTube. Let me show you guys the whole reason I even bother going live is to tell you guys about this Discord. And the Discord's free. You can go in there and hang out with other people. We've got a security engineering site group. So that course that I've been talking about, where I've just been going on about this logs and parsing and stuff, that course runs every Saturday, but there's a study group for it today. So you guys can go and study with other engineers that are doing the same type of stuff as you. Then there's a bash study group on tomorrow at noon. Now, those are shown in my time, but if you're in Discord, it'll be shown in whatever your time is. If you're on Discord in the computer, it's on the top left. If you're on your phone app, it's on the top right. So, like, if you got a phone, I imagine most of you have a phone. Hold on. Oh shoot! I'm missing text messages from people. But yeah, so Bash Study Group is tomorrow. Then we'll have our Linux sysadmin course. That's always at 3 p.m. my time. But again, go check it in your time if you want to come to it. Security engineering course. Now, we're on week 6 of 16 and of 10. So that's how many weeks each of these courses have. The Linux sysadmin course, you could probably still catch up on if you really wanted to work. But not everybody wants to work that hard. So some of you guys, I might say, well, then feel free to just, you can jump in the courses whenever you want, guys. You don't have to like be part of the course to be there and hang out. It's just you won't get, we have little certificates that we give, and you only get them at the end if you actually did the work. So you got to do all the work for the courses. There's about 10 hours a week of work. So it's a lot of stuff. There's the writer room on Sunday. This is the guys that are putting together these books. And if you were like, hey, I want to learn how to put together a cool little book like that, this is what the guys pour a fair amount of blood, sweat, and tears into for you guys to have these free books where you can just go look at, here's the course. Here's the Linux sysadmin course. Here's the things that you can put on a resume because you're going to know how to do it at the end. Here's the overall outline of what we do each of the 16 weeks in the course right there. So that's all right there. And again, I showed you guys earlier, I'll link this book to you. These books are free. You can just go grab those are free. You can take them, you could throw it in a pack and run off like a cartoon villain. I mean, I think you'll have more fun if you hang out, but these guys also, they're going to put themselves at the bottom as like contributors. So if you want something to be able to show somebody, hey, why do you want to get into tech? You've never done any tech before. And you say, well, I was part of this group that wrote this Linux sysadmin book. It's at least something. It's better than nothing. Then I have this one, I just put this one together last night. Next weekend, my wife's out of town. Not this weekend coming up, but next weekend, she's going to be out of town with one of her friends. So I have like this is not going to be streamed. This is just a getting into streaming. This will just be for like tech guys and tech people that want to get into it. I'll maybe even see if Fisherman's around later or if Sending Grounds will be around. I think Fisherman streams directly off of Linux too. So some of you like desktop diehard Linux guys that want to maybe see how to do it, I'll see if I can get him to come around at least for part of this. This is a little late for him. I think that's about 10 p.m. for him because he's East Coast. But I will show you guys all the tricks that I know. I will show you all the cool little stuff that I had to stumble over to figure out. And because I do want more of the people in our Discord to be streaming. I do want more people to be like, I don't want this just to be me going live and telling you guys about Linux and stuff. Some of you guys are in the field and doing different interesting things, and I think that that's valuable for the group to see. That same weekend, because next Monday I start teaching again. I had this week off, and I start working on my doctorate again because I had taken the last few months off. I'm going to start doing academic research sessions, and we will just sit around and I'll show you guys how to use Zotero and how to read Google Scholar and how we read research and all that kind of stuff, if that's interesting for you guys. There you go. All right, and then down here, there's all the, if you guys want to come to the actual annual conferences that we run. We run them to celebrate, this will be our 6th year on Discord, and it'll be it's officially our 11th year as a group. Although I think we were meeting before 2014, but 2014 is just kind of our official start. So, yeah, Hayes, I always have some water by me. I have a fridge not too far over. In fact, I tell people like that's how I know when I arrived was when I had a fridge in my office upstairs. I don't have to go downstairs for water anymore if I don't want to. But anyways, that's our Discord. There's a lot of stuff here, and there's a lot of people talking and stuff. But if you're interested in doing anything, join it. Go look at the beginner start here section. There's a lot of like, I try to keep this real parsed down for like, you've never done any Linux, here's the basic Linux. If you want to learn some certs that you can go get for free, you don't have any money to spend on stuff, but you want to get into tech, here's a bunch of certs that I think will at least, you at least put them on a resume, right? Hanging out with us is cool, and it'll get you something. It'll get you some knowledge, and you'll be able to talk about Linux. But if somebody's like, well, I really want somebody to have a certification in tech, well, you'll have some here. These are free certs on the web. All right. And then here's our playlist for the courses if you want to watch any of them. This is not, like, I went through all the stuff I'm going to talk about tomorrow, but this is not the course because we didn't do, we don't have all the stuff done yet here. So don't think like, oh, Scott did the course today. No, this isn't the recording for the course. But yeah, these are the topics. Actually, I might change this one to that as well. Did they do a cool one like that as well? Let's go down here. I actually kind of like that view. There's the topics in the actual class schedule for you guys. So yeah, if any of you are like, hey, I want to do that, I want to get into that, I want to understand that better. The other thing about the course too, the 16-week sysadmin course, is I'm not trying to like teach you guys all the basics of Linux. I kind of, in that one, we touch a lot of Linux. We use Linux the whole course. That's the goal of it. But I kind of assume that you're going to go and learn some Linux, or you've been doing some Linux in there. Now, we do start you off with some basics, but that is more about the interaction of like a sysadmin with a company to help show you like what's the work and why does the company want to pay us. Because, you know, companies don't just say, oh, this guy knows Linux. Let me get out the wallet. Let me pay this dude to start throwing money at you. It's the same thing I tell my college students. When you're done with college, nobody goes, you've got a degree? Oh, God, there's 1 in a million. And they just start throwing money at you. That's not how it works. You have to know how to do the work, right? Like, and then once you can do the work, the company has the value. They're like, oh, here's the value for having this person around doing work for us. And then that's when you get paid, right? So the goal of our group, again, is not just necessarily like, oh, do you know all the ways that cat and ls works? No, that's like stuff that people like to do on the internet to show they're smarter than everybody, right? Like they know, like, do I know how to Vim whatever all over the screen so that nobody even knows what's going on? That's not the important thing. The important thing is, can you do it for a business? Can you? I tell people all the time, like, no company has ever just gotten to 1,000 Linux servers and just run 1,000 Linux servers just to run them. They run them for some reason, for some business purpose. And working is the worst. That is true, Inspector. We try not. We learn the Linux stuff so we can get the job, and then when we get to the job, we learn how to automate so that we can watch more Netflix while the job is going. So that's kind of the goal. I didn't mean to have my mouse over there, but if you put your mouse over stuff, it'll rotate it. It's kind of funny. All right, we do have a little merch shop. I set a little merch shop up. Some people like that. Some people don't like merch. I don't know. I can't help you out here. I know for sure nobody's going to be buying anything in Phoenix for quite some time on the. On the any of the sweaters, because it's going to be way too hot out here. All right. Also, I will have to talk to the guys in the writers group. I'll probably pop down there on Sunday. I'm going to add there are going to be 2 unofficial weeks to the end of the sysadmin or the security engineering course. And what I mean by unofficial, the work is still only going to be the first 10 weeks. But I'm going to probably add the last 2 weeks of, I'll do recordings, and I'll do there'll probably be, I don't want to call them worksheets. Let's call them note sheets, but I'll add them as well so that, and they'll look like worksheets, but they're not going to have any assignments for you guys. It's just going to be an exercise in pulling it all together, because the security engineering course was supposed to show you guys all the blue team side of things, and I was going and looking. Let me show you guys something here. This is, if you guys ever go, you can go download all this stuff from, so this is like a Security Plus cert, right? So you guys that want to go get your Security Plus. And I wasn't modeling this after this in any way, but I just was even thinking like last week with like our updates and patching and that kind of stuff. And I was like, there's a lot of terminology out of here that I could have pulled out and used there. So I'm like thinking about it, and we also maybe we'll do a rework of some of the vocab words in general. But it's not that I want people to go get a Security Plus cert. That's not the goal of the security engineering thing. However, it doesn't hurt to align the things that you talk about as a security engineer and a Linux platform engineer and whatever fucking type of engineering you're doing. It does not hurt to align the way you talk to the way the industry understands the things, you know. So I will, the thing, maybe those 2 weeks will be maybe just me lecturing on like the points of these, and we'll be talking about some of these things and tying them. The goal will be to tie. It'll be to like take this nest of 10 things that we've kind of done like this with, and just kind of tightening it all up, like tying it all up and putting a little bow on it and saying, okay, we did all this security engineering stuff, but like what's the net balance of it? Like what does it all look like when we kind of cinch it all up into a, and take it and put it on a resume and all that kind of stuff. So again, I don't intend anybody to get a security plus thing. In fact, if you're doing the security engineering course, you're probably already starting to try to work in Linux in some capacity. But there's terminology and things here that'll help you to interface with your security teams and maybe your C-suite, depending on where you're at. I like that it got that, like I was talking about C-suite, like CEO and CISO type levels. So again, this isn't necessarily what we're trying to focus on, but there's a lot of good things there to think about. All right. So, and then also I have some other glaring gaps in the security engineering course that we're not going to fix this time. But when we run it again, I might have to make it a 16-week course, because I have we definitely didn't. Hold on, here, I'll show you guys the gaps that I see. We never did backups, recovery, disaster recovery, or business continuity planning. Now, hold on real quick. You might say, Scott, but we're just Linux engineers and we're just securing the Linux. Why should I over here spend a whole bunch of time learning about the business continuity plan? Well, because you will be part of the business continuity plan. You won't be the only part. They'll have their other servers and the other processes that are happening in the company. You will be one component of that, but you will also find that if this is my belief, guys. This is a guy who, back in the day, I went and got the ITIL 3 cert, and I get, like, I'm trained for PMP. I could go take my PMP whenever. I mean, I'd probably have to restudy for it, but I'm saying, like, I'm trained for all these things. But the reason I did that as an engineer was to be able to flow with the process better, so that I could deal with the bullshit without losing my mind. Because a lot of times, I mean, look, guys, we sit there in our Discord. We sit down there and complain about all kinds of shit. We do that to blow off steam, and I think that's healthy. But the other part of it is, like, man, as an engineer, like, you'll just get beat up by these stupid processes that have nothing to do with engineering, and you'll just hate your career, and you'll just leave. You'll go somewhere that's maybe a little more for you. But my point is, as engineers, for me, I want to surf like up on top of that. And then surfing is I don't know if you guys have ever watched somebody surfing. I've seen people surf on top of waves. They look like they're having a lot of fun sliding down the waves, down in the green room, all that cool stuff. Never done it, seen it. Cool. That looks like a lot more fun than the dude I've seen tumbling underneath the wave. Because I've seen them put a camera on a dude, have him fall off a surfboard and go like this underneath the wave. That dude does not look like he's having a good time. And that's an engineer that doesn't learn process. Like, we are engineers. We love tackling stuff, but we hate being told what to do. We hate rules and stuff. But I'm just going to tell you, you'll be a lot less bruised in life if you follow the rules, right? So, Monday, how's it? Muzzy. Sorry, I can't even read. How's it been a while? Happy streaming and Friday. Yeah, we're definitely on a Friday. We're getting ready for kind of a long weekend we're going to be hanging out and working on stuff. So, yeah. Well, Hayes, I'm telling you, like, you've described some of your conflicts at work, right? And if you understand the process, it makes that part easier. Now, as engineers, engineers deal with problems, right? Like that's one of the things of our life is like we're the people that like pick at knots and solve little, I do have some stuff here, but like knot tying and stuff. But we solve problems. That's what we do. We pick at things until we figure it out, right? And that's a big part of what we do. So when other people are slowing us down, or we think the process is slowing us down, that just frustrates us, right? So my point is learn the process so that's better. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. That's not really that important to the discussion today. But all right. So anyways, that's what I've been doing, guys. I got the course pretty ready. I'm gonna try to get the Prolog worksheet and lab out to probably I don't know if I'll get it all out tonight, but maybe I'll get some of it out tonight. And And then what else? Because I have so you guys know, some of you guys know this. I've got about an hour left. That's why I started a little early today. In about an hour, the wife gets home, and then we do date night. So I won't be on all of Friday night. I'll be in the Discord, like I'm always playing on my phone and stuff. But me and the wife will go do something. So I'm trying to think of what's the plan tonight. I need to get her over to jiu-jitsu, so we could go to jiu-jitsu tonight if we wanted to. But she doesn't want to wrestle or do jiu-jitsu with anybody else, and I'm like, all right, well, I'll just teach you that. But I don't want to be. Chat can be your third wheel. Yeah. I'll put chat up in the corner and let you guys watch from on the Discord app. I'll let you guys watch a jiu-jitsu class. That'd be kind of fun. I actually have a buddy that does that. He doesn't stream though on Twitch. Well, he does stream on Twitch, but not very much. But he used to like just put the thing up in the corner and let you guys watch everybody just smother and beat each other up and stuff in class. It was kind of funny. So that's just jiu-jitsu stuff though. What else do we got? Yeah, we're gonna keep the course going. Oh, what other things did I not finish? Hold on, I didn't finish telling you guys. So we for sure didn't do any DR or backup stuff, which I kind of think is a kind of glaring hole in this, but that's not like a showstopper. Maybe I'll work that in a little bit in Unit 9 with like certificate stuff. But Unit 9 is mostly going to be like comparing keys and using some tools to validate that keys are related to each other and stuff. So, yeah. Hayes, the only response to anybody saying I know Kung Fu that's acceptable is show me, right? Because that's what Morpheus said to Neo when he said he knew Kung Fu. All right. By the way, some of you guys might have noticed part of my my strategy when I do my discussion posts are to have you guys talk about things that aren't like some set in stone. Yeah, you think that's air you're breathing? He's like kicking his ass all over the place. Pretty good. I try to pick things in our discussions, and I'm thinking about this as I go back, and I might rework some of our questions. Not like controversial. I don't want to say controversial, but stuff that doesn't have one right answer. The right answer has to be defended, right? And you will find that a lot in tech. If we went back here real quick, right? Let's just go back to this architectures real quick. Where's the architecture? Because this right here is by far the thing that people argue about the most. By the way, if you guys have never sat in a room with architects or been in a call with architects, if you think engineers argue a lot, wait till you fucking go hang out with architects. Those guys got nothing better to do than argue. Like all they want to do. So if I said like, all right, guys, we're going to choose between the four of these, which is best? Well, it's not an answer like Conan. Conan knows what's best in life, right? Does anybody know what Conan says is best in life? But this right here, our syslog's perfectly fine. I've seen our syslog work on clusters up to like 5,000 nodes with just one node as the aggregator. It's perfectly good. What if that one aggregator goes down though? Everything loses all that stuff that's being sent off in real time gets missed. So you go, okay, how hard is it to configure our syslog to send to a different node in the cluster, or for all the nodes to flip it over? That's not too hard. But actually, the easiest solution is just to have them point to both and have one ignored all the time. And then some of us would go, well, that seems kind of janky. You just got to have it point to both, and then one's just off. Well, yeah, that's probably the easiest way with our syslog, because our syslog's been around 20-something years. So you go, okay. Well, what if we did log aggregation? What if we had all of them point to a Loki endpoint? And I just read a blog post the other day that Loki's hitting 20,000 nodes hitting an endpoint in Loki, and that was up. Like, okay, cool. What if we have like a load balancer in front of that as like a virtual IP, and they can just hit the service and then go to like 3 different Loki backends, and then it doesn't matter which one. Oh, and then maybe they share some sort, and we work something out there where maybe we even have them stoneth between each other, and one node is in charge at any given time with maybe like 3. Or maybe they can be like, they all read, and then maybe some are just replicas. Anyway, so you could do all kinds of stuff with that. So you go, okay, log aggregation with some kind of agents. That seems a little more like tenable for our organization and the money that we have. What about this message queue with Kafka? Maybe we find out that Kafka in like a normal individual cluster setup doesn't, maybe it can't handle the amount of load we have right off. So now we got to figure out, are we going to split up our Kafka workload to point at different devices? Are we going to do that same virtual IP thing that I was talking about earlier? Do we need to more properly split out our queue? Like, I mean, and they're not queues over there, they're topics. But actually, let's do. I got to check something here while we're sitting here talking about this. I got a thing to test. If anybody wants to test it with me, feel free to come do it. We're gonna go to Killer Coda. We're gonna go to one of my labs where in this is a lab. I don't think I've done this lab, but maybe 5 times on stream ever. This lab's like a very, very less well-known lab that I built because I don't go a lot down in the Kubernetes labs because I don't do as much Kubernetes professionally as I maybe would have liked. But I have one here where we deploy Kafka. Here we go. So if anybody wants to do this with me, we're going to see if there's any errors in this. So I'll link this for you guys. If anybody wants to come do the lab with me, we're not going to work too hard on it. We're just going to do this real quick because if this stands up and works, then we're going to use this. We'll do this and we'll build another lab off of it, and then this will be for tomorrow as well. So your team's decided to investigate this concept of event-driven architecture, right? Boom. So now here's some information about it. Let's go write our solution. We'll make the namespace Kafka. We'll see that there's nothing in there. We'll go look at our Zookeeper file. And is our Zookeeper file pulling? So here's our service. Here's our version. Let's see if that'll work. Okay, it worked. Let's go get all of them. Give it a second to come up. Let's make sure that everything works the way that we expect. Zookeeper is not pointing to an endpoint yet, so it's not all up yet. All right, it's up. It's ready. The description is going to an endpoint. That's cool. We go describe everything. It looks like it's started and it's right. Okay, that's good, good, good. All right, so we've got Zookeeper running. You need Zookeeper for Kafka, right? At least in the older versions. I think I've read something that the newer version has it built in or doesn't need it anymore, but this is why I might have to update this, or I might have to abandon this for this week and do it next week in the labs. We'll see. All right, so this is a old version, and I am pulling a very specific version. If you guys want to go into this sometime, we can, but I had to give some environment variables specifically about the service that we're hitting for Zookeeper. Let's see if this one will start. And let's watch it try to start up. So we'll see it start to start up. Give it a second, maybe a few seconds here to come up and online. Make sure we don't get any errors. The service is up, but it doesn't have an endpoint yet for it. So I'll give it a second. All right, it's up. They all came up. We'll be able to go describe the service with a proper endpoint. Proper endpoint, good. All right, so that's all done. Now I say we've done a little bit. Let's make this tool called Kafka Cat. Let's install it locally. And then we will turn on a little forwarder. So we got a forwarder running. That's fine. And now let's send some messages in. Did Kafka not work? Hold on. Hold on. Could have sworn it just installed. Okay. So Kafka Cat's not there. Let's do, so we're going to do this. We're going to go dpkg -l Kafka Cat. Not L. Is it QL? Oh. What is the name? -S? Where's our version info? No, I need, hold on. I know I have it. I just don't remember my command. I think I put up here, package managers. I always forget this command. -L? Yeah, -L. Share. Oh, it's user share dot. So So now our command is only going to work if we either have to put that in our path. Let's just check. I don't know why it should be like this, but oh, that's a directory, huh? It's not. Oh, damn it! All right, shit. All right, well that's no good. Apparently then. Hold on. Oh. They shorten the name. I'm dumb. You guys can always say I'm dumb. KCat. All right. So that I gotta fix my lab, guys. The lab's busted because it's KCat now, right? Let's go fix the lab real quick while we're here. Kubernetes, Kafka, step 1, step 3, KCat. And then we should be able to do KCat here. All right, Control S, save, fixed. All right, that just lets you do stuff at the command line. All right, so let's go run it, sync. We'll sync it, but that'll be, my commands are fine for now. This one will now fail, but then we'll do KCat. We're also testing the commands to make sure that they just work. KCat. All right. Yeah. So, oh, and then there's that. So if I were to come here, and I would say this is my message date, and I was to do it like multiple times, right? And then I would come here and I would just read it the one time, there would be all my messages, and then I would end at offset 8, which means that the next thing that comes in and read could start at that offset of 8 and not touch any of those older versions or whatever, right? Yeah. So, yeah, that was my bad. Sometime in the last 2 years, they've changed it to just be KCat instead of Kafka Cat. So now, anyways, this lab will now work, but I want to I like rerunning my labs once I fix them so that I know that they're right. That's been pushed, so there will be a new version, just so you guys know. In here, we'd see a new version of my poll. So right now, right here, Friday, May 2nd at 15. So that's right now, that's my time. And then in UTC time, it's 10 o'clock at night or whatever. So they're 7 hours off. And then we come down here to Kubernetes labs. We'll go redo the Kafka stuff. So my Kafka deployment is just an old way of deploying it, and this is really good for you guys to test. If you guys want to play with Kafka, this will give you a way to start playing with Kafka. So this will give you at least a basic start of it enough. I need to finish building out in the home lab so that we just have a version in the home lab that we can hit from any of the boxes, I do have that with Loki though. So the Loki portion of the lab, I already have that all set up. I just need to go write the lab for it. Anyway, so we'll go here. Boom. Document. I always like to show the documentation where you can go get more information. You got a new namespace and it's clean. And then we're going to go look in here. We're doing two things. We're doing an API call for the service. The service is like a point. It's like a fixed point that never moves. And then the deployment and the pods, the deployment, makes the replica set, and then the replica set desires a number of pods, and the pods can move all over the place, but the service will always point to the pods based on the selector, and the selector here is app zookeeper, and the selector that it's going to use to find it up here is app zookeeper, so it'll always point at the right pod no matter where it is. Now you guys just saw this work, but I'm telling you what it's doing. All right, now we'll give it a little bit of time because until this comes up and until all the pods are ready, this will not have a backend. Now it's got a backend. So the pod's already up. When we go look at it again, it's up. Okay, so that part's good. That's Zookeeper. Then we do the Kafka part. We go look at our Kafka. Here's our Kafka service. Again, that's a point that we can always hit. And then the deployment of just one replica in this case is the Kafka broker, and this tells it where to go point back to, which is that service right there, Zookeeper service on the right port. These are values. You can find this on the Docker, which I think is right here. It shows you the Docker. Yeah, for this And you come down here and you go, Scott showed me all those variables, but where the hell did he find those variables? Scott's not that smart. Scott can just go reference things, right? Here's all the things I needed to reference right there. Then I just pointed them to what it would be for this lab, right? Guys, it's all chutes and ladders, man. When you realize that everything just points to something else, it'll make everything else you do in engineering easier. It's like a thing I tell people in jiu-jitsu, right? There's this people are like, I can't get his hands, I can't get grips or whatever, and I'm like, well, didn't he just grab you like on your gi like this? And you're like, yeah. And then I go, well, didn't he just concede that grip back? And you're like, well, what does that mean? Well, it's like this. So if you were standing in front of me and I just went like this and I just like kept my hands away, you'd have a really hard time grabbing my hands, guys. I'm just gonna tell you right now, I wouldn't even have to know any jiu-jitsu. I could just keep my hands away like this, and you'd be like, I can't catch his hands. His hands are far away. But if I grabbed you like this and got a hold of your, in our case, gi, like our uniform, then you would go like this, and you would just grab my hand, and I would be like, oh shit, I conceded a grip when I gripped him, right? It's the same thing with this. Like, once you see that everything just points to something else, it makes everything else we do easier. Because then you just go, well, that's not pointing to the right place. And then somebody goes, oh, shit, that's right. And then now you look like some hero in a meeting or something. But all you did was just look for what the error message said was broken. Do you guys know that, like the number one troubleshooting step to deal with, like, the normal public is just read what the error message says? It's like the first step. It's like a target lock. Yeah. I remember the first game I ever played with target lock like that, which was the very first... Well, it was the first 3D link that they put on the N64. I think it was the Ocarina of Time or Ocarina. I never know how to say that word. But the one where you could go from old to young. And he could target lock on things, and then you could like point at them the whole time. That was the first time I ever saw that in a video game. And you held the back trigger to lock on things, and then you could switch your lock. Made your arrow shooting and all that stuff better. That was super fun. Anyways, all right. Let's deploy it. So we'll deploy it and then we'll go look. It's not up to date yet, so it won't have a back end. But now it does have a back end because, oh, hold on, that one has a back end. Give it a second here. Still creating. It's up. Service is up. Everything's seeing everything correctly. We can keep going. All right. Now, if I updated the lab right, we should install Kafka Cat. We will make the little forwarder work so that it's just, we've got the forwarder now. Here, boom. And then let's go send some KCAT messages in. Good. Wait a few seconds. Good. Sure, we can even write a loop. And then we'll go pull. Here's all of our messages with the date. All right. Yeah, that's good enough. And if you said, Scott, what else do you know about Kafka? That's about as far as I go with it. Right there. Because I used to have to run, I would just send all my logging to it, and then something else over on the Elasticsearch side would pull it out. I don't even know, I never even dug into that mechanism. It never broke in our system. But a lot of this stuff you pick up by when it breaks, and then you go figure out where it broke, right? When you engage target lock in Dark Souls, the enemy is guaranteed to hit you. That sounds terrible, Hayes. Like, that sounds terrible if it's going to automatically be able to get you. All right, validation fail. Why did my validation fail? Did I not do the full? So, oh, my validation might be busted. Hold on, let's go look at our validation for this lab. So, it's possible I got to do another deploy. Because my verification, oh, timeout just does CCAT. Or KCAT. KCAT. Like a little kitty cat. My wife would love that command. She loves cats. All right, updated. Step 3 verification to KCAT. Boom. Right, and the commits are for us anyways. So, yeah, you died. Yeah, that's a big. I remember hearing that. I never played any Dark Souls games. I don't even have time to play a lot of that stuff anymore. All right. Good. So that should that'll be good. So that part of the lab will be good. We'll have validation failed for now. But if you guys were doing this, you could come in here and you could add. I think even last time we did this, because again I haven't done this lab very much. We would come here and we could say, right now. Like we could say Python 3 write to Kafka, right? And I can go put this over on this side here. And look, I don't even know anything about this, but I'll let this AI try to help me, right? So over here, we're all done with that, so we don't care about that anymore. And this says pip, so we want pip 3 install Kafka Python. Okay. Externally managed environment. Ah. So we're in a environment. So let's see if we can. Yeah, this is all the individual pieces of it. Okay. Let's go here. I wonder if just Python creator. We should be able to VNV or create. I haven't done this in a while in Python, guys. I'm not a Python guy like all day. I'd have to figure out if Salty's around. Salty would know how to do it. I don't make the environments very often. Typically, I'll just do. Well, let's see. Let's see if this will work like they say here. We'll give this a try. Apt install Python 3 dash Kafka. I don't think this is gonna work though, but we can see. Yeah. Oh, Python 3 Kafka's there. All right, fair enough. Now, we'll do Python real quick, and we'll just say, can I import? So from, we're going to try from Kafka, import Kafka producer. All right, well, that's, guys, you gotta make sure you spell things right. Kafka. All right, that is giving us all kinds of problems. Vendor 6 moves. No module name that. There's a way also to see the yeah. We might have to might have to go check like down in here. Ah. It's always annoying. There's a producer. I wonder if that's all just lowercase. Oh, well, hold on. That's Python. Yeah, we are on Python 3. Oh, let's try this. From Kafka import. Yeah, I don't know enough about it. Oh, is that it? Python-m virtual environment? Yeah, but what if I don't have one? Does it make it for me? I need to know if it makes it for me. I didn't. Well, anyway, so the point is, I'm going far afield. I'm going far outside of anything I know how to do well, especially in an environment I've never been in. But I can tell you guys for sure that we have the system up and running, where we can for sure read and write to our Kafka. right? We can send whatever we want in there. We can read stuff out of it, and then whatever tooling we wanted, we would just have to figure out how to get the tooling on there. I don't know the Python well enough, but I do know that once I got this to work, then the rest of this would start to. Yeah, it's weird. Producer equals that. Yeah, this is what I kind of expect it to look like here, and then you'd be able to send stuff. I wonder if there's. I don't know if there's any other ones that would be easier to do, but my point is, you guys can play with the labs if you wanted to, and you guys can go in there and mess with that more. But that's one of the Kafka. That's the only Kafka lab I have for that kind of stuff. Everything else is all, mostly Linux or just straight Kubernetes stuff. All right. Oh, I left that running. That's funny. I left that running for 20 or 47 minutes. That's how long it's been since we've been back to this terminal, so that's kind of funny. Other than that, what's everybody working on this weekend? Is anybody coming to the group? Anybody coming to the any of the courses? We're doing the Linux sysadmin, and we're also doing the security engineering this weekend. So you guys have mostly been watching me just prep for the security engineering one. Although I only got about 20 more minutes until the wife comes home, and then I gotta do what's it called, date night. We do date night. So give Ranger some food, and then we go do something. Actually, I have an idea of something that might be fun that her and I haven't done. Costampin, you're gonna be at sysadmin. Have you been doing all those? Have you been, or did you do them the first time, or you've only been here for the new one? I'm only curious. I mean, that doesn't much matter. It's some people are doing that course for the second time because they wanted to get more out of it. So I tell you guys all the time, you can hang out and do whatever you want. Like I don't take attendance. I was just kind of wondering. Only here for the new one. Okay. Yeah. I am eventually going to re-record all of those as well because I recorded them live on Sunday mornings, and if I got distracted, then there's distractions during the course because I did them live. So, I try to answer people's questions and stuff. So it's very possible that I didn't get everything kind of as I was going. So, all right. I do need to update my... Let me show you guys this. Jump over here. So let's clear up Werewolf CD2 labs lab work. Yeah. And we're going to make a new dir and we'll call this one, let's call it Security Engineering No, I'm just kidding. We'll call it Security Engineering SE Lab 6. The Drumple asks, what kind of jobs can I apply to with Linux knowledge? I would say mostly probably Linux administrative stuff to start out. Linux admin. A lot of times you can get into storage roles or security roles with some Linux knowledge. Network operations centers, like NOC centers, you can typically run with a little bit of Linux. There's always data center work, which it's valuable. You don't always use a lot of Linux in data centers, but sometimes you do if you're booting them up and that kind of stuff. So sometimes they want you to have that. So that's what I would tell you. Also, I have this, if you go up in our Discord, right? And I realize, guys, if you haven't done our Discord before, there's a lot of stuff. But I always have meeting notes. And I think this is one of the things that only I can write into, me or like my mods. And I have stuff up here that's like, so just in our meeting notes. We have, every now and then we do interviews. Like I'll walk you guys through interviews. And this is just a fake job posting to all the Linux Junior Administrator. And here's your responsibilities. And then what we kind of walk through is I'll walk you guys through like what a technical interview sounds like. And like I'll do an interview for like 10 minutes with each of the different people that are showing up for it. And we've been doing that the last few weekends. We won't do it this weekend. We could do it next weekend because the wife's out of town. So I'd have a little bit of extra time for that if you guys wanted. I've been throwing stuff up here around notes and things that are happening. This one's a bigger one here of whatever we're learning about, if there's a flow chart or something like that. But specifically to that question of like what kind of jobs might we be able to do. I do have notes up here around like what does a Linux admin need to know about NFS? Is it installed? Is it running? Where is it configured? Where are the logs? And I just give you like a bunch of stuff, and we like walk through and talk about this. These are like much longer discussions, but I'm just showing you kind of the shorthand. And then these are like actual job boards where we went and found jobs. They want you to be able to install, configure, and maintain Linux operating systems. So yeah, they're just Linux admin, typically entry level, junior Linux stuff. Sometimes we look them up live and we just go look at what the jobs are asking for, and then we take our notes from that. But yeah, this is the kind of stuff that we do. Got a bunch of notes in here around the different labs that we've been working on and what it looks like. Like, what does a Linux admin need to know about security? Well, it's not something I could teach you guys in one night, but it's like, here's the lab about attempted user login. Where do we check for login attempts? What do we know about an invalid user? How do we add a user? How do we set their password? How do we check that their password's been set? Right? It's an important thing. Like, if I'm yelling at you because I'm like, hey, you can't log into my Linux systems because you're a dummy, but you're yelling at me because the password hasn't been set or your password's not working. Well, we can just sit there and yell at each other all day, or me being the admin, I can kind of be the adult about it and go look at what's actually happening. And this is what we got to know. This is how we deconflict. By the way, if you're the Linux admin, don't be yelling at your customers. I mean, 20 years ago, you yell at whoever you want because they couldn't find another Linux guy. Nowadays, somebody's waiting to take your job, right? Especially in this economy. So you got to be a little more polite as a Linux person nowadays than you used to have to. But anyway, so there's just notes up here. I think this is a good section for some of you guys. Arth Vader, you've had that exact conversation, like with the juniors. You're like, guys, listen, man, when I came up, I could literally do whatever I wanted. And they'd be like, oh, God, nobody else knows how to cast these Linux spells. But now I think it's a little more common, right? Or at least it's a little more global where people could just work remote, right? Yeah, these are all jobs. This is all job stuff we were looking at. We were looking at different labs and stuff. And yeah. Hey, there's a bunch of stuff up. Guys, there's stuff all over Discord for you guys to go play with. Mainly, I'd tell you, check the events, guys. Events are free. Everything we have in Discord is free. You have to look around to find something to pay for, right? Like everything that we do in Discord's free. You guys can go hang out and do whatever. Because my goal is to get a bunch of you guys doing this stuff, get you doing it professionally, and hopefully it changes maybe your career path or whatever. Thanks for the follow. I might have missed a follow earlier too, but Carl Dots. That's Carl Dots. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. I think I'm running out of steam because I'm going on 2.5 hours. But let's call let's call it SE6. And we'll call it what is this going to be? Logs and monitor. What did I call? I don't even remember what I called this. Monitoring and logs. Let's go look real quick at the actual course name. Hold on. Logs and parsing. What's Ranger doing? Ranger's walking around. Logs and parsing, that's what I called it. Logs and parsing. You guys want to check out Ranger for a bit? Here. We'll creep on Ranger while he's standing around. Oh, no, he's going outside again. All right. We missed him. CD to SE6. Huh. And then in here, we're going to... Let's modify this. We'll go do this in real time while we're sitting here. Let's go find my Linux lab, Linux logs, Apache. Loki right. Let's go grab this. And let's go throw it in here. But we got to modify him. When we do all this, we got to modify him to point at our Loki box here. Now Loki is at 192.168.11.180 in my lab, I believe. If I need to check that, I could come here. Oh, whoops, that's literally not what I wanted to do. All right, let's just do that for a second. Come over here. Exit out of there. 180. There he is. All right. Oops. 180. And the source can be testing. The job can be let's call it hold on. Job is app. Okay. Job maps back to app. Okay, good. So job here will be, let's call this, so the guys have this thing called PSC. So that's probably what we'll call it, because PSC makes sense then, I guess. So we'll call it PSC, say unit 6, S Champagne, or Het. That should be fine. Make sure it's not a special character. Yeah, do it like that. Escape : WQ, and then the one thing that I need to find then on these boxes is I might need to add this is I don't know if all of these things will be there, so it may be a pip3 install pytz. What? Oh. Well, I also didn't want to do it here anyways. Pip3. Don't have it. Let's see. Let's put it on here. Do you have Python 3 on here? It's Rocky 9.5 box. Okay. Search all. Is that command gonna work? But even if it does, it's not gonna give me the even if that works. All right, let's do this a different way. Fuck it, we'll just do it this way. Let's see what's. I don't know what's baked in. That's normally there. Boom. We'll just see if we have to get any. This is the one that I worry about. Import. I don't think that's normally there. Yeah. PyTZ is not normally there. So we just do that. All right. What's the oh, it might be. Hold on. I think it's Python 3-pytz. Let's see. Yeah, see? Stupid. It's so fucking stupid. Oh, God, it's dumb. It's fine. It's all fine. Just lose my mind a little bit. Alright. Now, let's just... Oh, it didn't even... Doesn't matter. Ah, got 204. It's good. So let's come over here. We won't let this spin anymore. We're going to change this here to do we see that app? PSC Unit 3 Het Tanis. And then the string won't be failed anymore because we're not looking for failed. And we'll see on server control plane, detected error, Scott is too awesome. Boom. Write a few more. Write a few more. Boom. It'll show up over there in 10 seconds. So I'll have that for you guys, but you guys will have to modify your variables in the lab. And then I'll write the one to pull it, and that'll have to be part of the steps to the lab. Oh god, I'm on the wrong box again. Oh, shake my head at the damn heaven. What? I don't know how I get anything done, guys. I don't know how I get shit done. I mean, I'm in the right... I don't know how I get anything done, guys. God. I mean, it worked, but I did it on the wrong box. All right. We'll just do it like that. If you guys want to set up environment files, I think that's fine. I think that would actually be good to add if you guys want. But in the base one, I'm just gonna have you do it right on the node. Yeah, Hayes. I mean, I get that. I should do it. You got to remember, in my home lab, I'm just like, I don't want to do it. My first, so this tends to be like my lab server, right? Like whatever one, and this tends to be, oops. This tends to be werewolf, like that. This tends to be the way I do and then I have some lab stuff I'm doing for a buddy with all the state, like I'm mapping things back so that we can grab weather data. But that part's done. That's fine. And then I got to go do a low-key read, which I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if I've ever done a low-key read. I've only ever done a low-key write there, and then I pull it out over here. Like this is, I've always just fed it in with low-key. I've never done like a low-key read. Let's see if this thing has anything useful for me. Nah, I don't need none of that stuff. Say low-key read. See if it'll give me a low-key read example. It's logql for sure. Oh, with Python. What's Python? I'm interested to see if it can. Oops. All right, so it's got all that stuff, and then it's just a query of a range. Okay. So look, up at the top, this is the same, with the exception of the fact that it's reading. And then there's a bunch of values and stuff that are fine. And we'll just have to change our localhost to our same URL there. All right, that'll give me at least a start, because I just want to do the start time and the end time for everybody, and then I'll let them go pull out. They'll pull out anything for this, but it'll be PSC unit 6 and then your username, whatever you guys want to use as your username, and then you can dump it. I don't care about all this stuff. We'll limit it down for a search. Yeah, it'll be fine. Good enough for government work. All right. So that's what we're working on. I'll probably drop off of here, but we're working on getting people into Linux, getting people practicing Linux. That course is starting. So if you guys are hanging out here and want to go do anything in the Discord now, that should be starting right about now. The security engineering group, you can at least go hang out with people that are doing that. They're starting that in 1 minute. So you guys can go do that. Bash study group tomorrow, go down there. They also, that's not just like a study group, they're also up here in Bash and System Tricks, just dropping down things that are useful for people. And we have years and years of stuff in here that people have posted that are useful. Same with our Ansible code. I show you guys all the time our Ansible stuff. If you want to find something, you can always ask, but then you can go back and you can kind of query up through there and do some, they have very limited functionality, I think, in there, but Looks like that just started. Yeah. So if anybody wants to go in there and see what the group's about, maybe meet some other engineers and people that are doing some of this stuff, you can do it. All right. But I got to drop off of here. I will see some of you guys this weekend. You guys are always welcome to hang out and look around in the Discord and all that good stuff. And I appreciate you guys coming by. All right. Take care.